Call the meeting to order. Please rise to the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening and those watching on cable. First order of business is minutes. In our agenda, the July 13 executive session minutes were kind of postponed again until next week, our next meeting. So we have the regular session minutes of August 3rd. Mrs. Manapelli?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the August 3rd, 2015 regular session minutes as written.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Manapelli, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. We also have an executive session for the same date.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the August 3rd, 2015 executive session minutes as written.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Manapelli, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Any discussion? The only discussion that would be in order, obviously, would be to postpone. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Gilberto, you're going to introduce our new health director.
Well, we were expecting Mr. Bracy to be here, but it appears it may have been otherwise held up. We were also expecting representatives of the Board of Health.
I saw Gary.
Yeah, they were here earlier.
Are you still in the car? There was somebody in the corridor.
I would suggest perhaps if the board wants to take up the next item, we can go check to see if they're going to be coming back or not.
Next item
Yeah.
is discussion of the Eastgate Liquor scheduled for 3-day suspension. No, here comes one. Are you ready?
Oh, we.
We're waiting for you now.
You're up.
We got to cut everybody a little slack tonight.
You gonna do this one?
I didn't get that sense.
Right in the front, Gary. Right at the table.
Microphone right there on that front table.
You gotta sit.
You want to introduce it?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. As the agenda reads, we have the recently appointed health agent and public health director here, Mr. Robert Bracy. I advised the board between meetings that his appointment had been completed, and his start date is August 31st. He's joined by members of the Board of Health who have come out as well, and certainly to support the work of Mr. Bracy. As I indicated to the board members via electronic communication, we were looking to hire somebody who would succeed a 30-plus year incumbent in the position, which is certainly a challenge. But I believe that through the good work of the Board of Health, of screening the candidates, we've identified a solid candidate who will allow us to continue to advance the health of the community and the well-being of the community here, not only in terms of the environmental work that's done on a day-to-day basis, but in terms of public and community health programming that I think the community needs in this day and age. As I've mentioned to you all in the past, Mr. Bracy comes to us with nearly 20 years of municipal experience, I believe 17 of which are in public health. So we have somebody who does have quite a bit of experience in the field, all in communities here in Massachusetts, ranging from the city of Cambridge the town of Stoneham, city of Newburyport, where he was previously, and contracted services that he provided here for the town of North Reading. I don't know, Mr. Hunt, if you had any comments that you'd like to make. Certainly your board was active in the selection process.
Yeah, I think we're very happy to have Bob on board. We received 12 resumes in response to our advertisement, which was a lot more than we expected. And what we heard was that people wanted to work here. They wanted to work in North Reading. And that was very encouraging for us to hear that, because we hadn't had to interview anybody before. I've been on the board for 30 years, and it's always been Martin Fair. So now I had to go through a new process to find a new Martin Fair, and that wasn't easy. And I think Bob was the best of the candidates that we saw. We interviewed 6, and we gave 2 of those to Mike for his interview, and we selected Bob. So we're happy to have him on board. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Welcome, Bob.
Congratulations.
Would like to make a statement? I don't want to put you on the spot or anything.
Yeah, the interviews are over.
I just want to thank the Board of Selectmen for allowing me this opportunity to come forward and introduce myself. I'd like to thank the town administrator, and certainly would like to thank the Board of Health members for coming here this evening and supporting me. So thank you very much, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to come to North Reading and hopefully do a good job in working well with the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator. So thank you very much.
Very good.
Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anything else, Michael?
No, that was all. We really wanted to have an opportunity to publicly introduce Mr. Bracy, if possible, before his first day, next Monday. I expect that he'll be seen in the community with a range of stakeholders, including the restaurant owners, who I'm sure have already interacted with him, with those who conduct site plan review with regard to septic systems will be visiting him. As I have mentioned to the board, we'll go through a transition where we'll likely be able to rely less on contracted services for restaurant inspections, but we may need to backfill some of our Title V work with regard to septic systems. But I expect to see that will all even out and factor into the budget presentation and proposal for next fiscal year. But I expect that he'll be seen in the community, and we wanted people to have an opportunity to meet him under this setting before they see him around. I know he's expressed a desire to be at the table in interdepartmental initiatives, including the Community Impact Team, which the Board of Health has been represented at for the past year or so. I think that they've been a welcome addition to and an active participant, and I look forward to Mr. Bracy participating as well.
Great. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you again.
Welcome
Thank you.
aboard.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is Eastgate Liquors, scheduled a 3-day suspension. Would you like to just, for the public purpose, just kind of brief what we've gone through and where we are?
Sure. So for the edification of the public, as was referenced at the last meeting, the town had prevailed at the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission appeal that had been filed by Eastgate in March or April. There was a July hearing that was held. We were notified on July 27th that the ABCC had upheld the 3-day suspension that the board had issued. We then received notice that Eastgate was going to be pursuing the appeal of the ABCC's decision, which can only be done in Superior Court. They have 30 days to do that from the date of receipt of the suspension. We received it on July 27th. I have to believe they received it on or about the same date as well, and are following a similar timeline. Chairman and I were contacted by, or I was contacted by, but met with the chairman with representatives of Eastgate this past week, and they expressed a desire to be heard before the Board of Selectmen at this evening's meeting, and I believe that they're here this evening with a statement to be made.
So the actual public hearing on this, we're not in a public hearing.
That's correct. This is not a hearing.
But I will allow the representatives from Eastgate, if they want to make a statement, either before or after we impose the penalty.
Mr.
You to speak now?
Yeah, Mr. Lucci.
My name's
John Lucci. John Lucci, I'm representing Eastgate Liquors. There's been a lot of talk lately in the news about mandatory minimum sentencing and the problems with that. And it just reminds me of this violation. I don't think there's a level playing field because of the 4 types of licenses that North Reading has: on-premise, off-premise, beer and wine, and full alcohol. If we are to close for 3 days, our employees will not be working, and it doesn't make sense to pay them or else I'm gonna have disgruntled employees that are gonna be committing future violations and staying home and getting paid. I think we've got a great track record of 2 violations in 30 years. We will accept the board's decision tonight. It will not be appealed to Superior Court. We appreciate the time that the town has put in, listening, and Eastgate runs on a high volume, low margin philosophy. My father started in 1971, and he runs it, or he ran it like he developed it like the supermarket business. And it's been very successful, but it's high volume and low margins. That's the problem we're having, swallowing the 3-day suspension. All of our employees are 100% of the employees are TIPS trained, so that they don't sell to minors, underage. It's to prevent intoxication, underage drinking, and drunk driving. I don't know what else to say to you people. I appreciate your time and will accept your decision. But taking Eastgate's license will close them for 3 days, unlike other businesses in the past. The other 2 people that had violations the same evening, they lost about $2,100 in sales. Eastgate's will be 27 times that. It's like going to jail for 21 days or 2,700 days. That's the difference. That's the way I see it. I realize the board is trying to come up with a blanket sentence in case someone else appeals it and they have to go to the ABCC and say, well, this is our policy. It makes sense. I understand it. It's just a tough pill to swallow for a high volume, low margin business. Appreciate your time again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lucci.
Can I say something? Can I speak in the town? I live in the town about this matter. Thank you.
Name and address for
My
our
name is
secretary.
Scott Conrad. I live at 4 Summer Street, North Reading. I've lived here for 30 years. I think that it's unfair how restaurants in this town are treated differently than these certain stores. Generally, people don't drink in liquor stores. They drink in restaurants. Restaurants aren't held to the same level that the liquor stores are, which is a little unfair as well, considering intoxicated people generally leave the restaurant. But with that being said, I think it costs the state tax money on highly taxed items and people with income. So that's pretty much my piece. Thanks.
At this point, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board reinstate the 3-day suspension of the retail packaged goods store license of Eastgate Liquors as voted on March 9, 2015, and affirmed by the ABCC on July 22, 2015. Such suspension to be served on September 10th, 11th, and 12th, 2015, unless the ABCC decision is first appealed to Superior Court, and that the license must be delivered to the North Reading Police Department at the close of business on September 9th and picked up at the police station on September 13th.
Second.
Here a second by Mr. Prisco. Any discussion on behalf of the board? Mr. O'Leary.
Just to Mr. Conrad's point, and even to Mr. Lucci's point, and I think I've expressed it previously, and maybe we should, as a board, just, and again, don't get me wrong, I think it's important to be consistent, and I think we've had a very good track record in relation to appeals of the board's decisions before the ABCC. But there is some merit to the discussion, to have a discussion in relation to the different types of establishments and the penalties that, whether there be some sort of a progressive discipline as to what we want to really impose. Should it be a carte blanche across the board for a restaurant, for a full liquor store, or a beer and wine malt beverage licensee? And again, the impact is significant, depending upon the types of businesses and establishments that we're dealing with. We have a responsibility. I think we've met it, we're meeting it, and continue to meet those responsibilities as far as supporting our police department, the sting operations, and ensuring that this compliance with the TIPS regulations and training and what our expectations are. But I think, again, to Mr. Lucci's point, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars worth of penalty in this particular case versus, a couple of $1,000s on another case, maybe. Maybe we should revisit it. Again, that's for another night. Again, I think we should think about that, and if there's an appetite, fine. If there isn't, the majority of the board, that's okay too. But I think it's worthy of consideration and discussion at a future date.
Okay, anyone else?
I just have,
Ms.
one comment, just in response to your comment, that I hope this doesn't result in disgruntled employees committing future violations, and I hope that it results in just some better control and better management and no further violations. And I hope you can set the bar, because this is your only business. I hope you can set the bar for everybody else. And that's my only comment.
Okay, any other comments, Mr. Yule?
Yeah, in listening to Mr. Lucci with regard to the impact that it has on the establishment, and I know they realize, because they have taken some steps, they realize the magnitude of 2 mistakes, 3 mistakes over X amount of years. I have to assume that the volume that they handle is significantly higher or greater than the other stores, okay? The definition of fairness comes into play here. 3 days for one person, 3 days for another person, that's fair, 3 days. But when you hear the impact, the difference of the 3 days being significant, then you begin to wonder, do we really have a handle of what fairness is as far as dollars and cents are concerned? So I think that's something we need to grapple, at least going forward, because, these are significant numbers as far as fairness is concerned. It's not fair if someone's paying as a penalty of $2,100 and someone has, I don't know what was the number, significantly higher. It seems that the fairness issue is maybe not being addressed. And that doesn't mean we're not being fair. I think we're trying to be as fair as we possibly can. But days versus dollars are 2 significant issues. So it gives me pause. I have to say that. It gives me pause. Because if we want to send a message, which I think that's what we want to do, okay, we're sending an imbalanced message in the sense that the other stores, $2,100, I'm okay, I'll survive, I can sell some other stuff. The message here, and it's the right message, but the message here is that an establishment like Eastgate, people are being put out of work, maybe not being paid, the establishment's losing a lot of, I forget the number, was it what did you say?
27 times. the
27 times.
volume
So
of
there is a fairness issue, 3 days versus that significant difference. So it gives me pause.
Anyone else?
Well, I'm just gonna say a couple things, because I think we're losing sight of why we're doing this. This isn't because we don't like Eastgate Liquors. This isn't because of we're trying to hurt business. This is a bigger picture perspective, and the stance that we've taken, and you read the ABCC's response to us, why they upheld it. Our consistencies in these matters were why they upheld it. And just because you lose more money than the next person doesn't come into effect, because if one of my loved ones are killed because you sold an underage person that alcohol and they go on the streets and they hurt someone, well, where's the fairness in that? You can't, you know what I'm saying? We could throw a lot on the table and have this discussion, but at the end of the day, our responsibility from the Board of Selectmen perspective is to protect our community. And we're talking about something that was posted in advance. Everyone knew this was happening in advance. We understood, and I learned today for the first time, that the ABCC actually does this on their own as well, which you were caught in 2012 in this violation, which I didn't know about it until this evening.
That's not correct.
Well, nonetheless, that's the information.
2010,
2010, what did I say?
12.
Oh, sorry, 2010. So we're not the only ones that do it. They're not doing it to hurt your business. They're doing it to protect the community. And that's why I'm standing firm on my decision with the 3 days, because your alcohol is the same alcohol that a restaurant provides or any other one that has the privilege to have a license from North Reading. It's not an entitlement, and I can't say that enough. It is not an entitlement. It's a privilege that this board grants these alcohol licenses, and that everybody should take them more seriously and value them a lot more with their policies and procedures and how they operate and how they provide alcohol to others. So I'm voting in favor of this motion.
I think Steve has made a reasonable suggestion associated with the future, and we should talk about it in the future. Because one thing I learned, I was the one that went to the, went to the ABC hearing, and the focus was on not the police, it was on the board. It was on me associated with defending the uniformity, the consistency of what we've done. And it would seem to me that a board policy that would clarify that would have even been more helpful than us going through all our records to present, what we had done in the past. So rather than a past practice, that we actually have some form of a policy. And then I think for all our establishments in town, it would be clear to them as to what our policy is. Those that haven't had the opportunity to come before us, or the penalty of coming before us. But that's, I think Steve is right. We could put it on the agenda for a future to review and maybe put what we've been doing. I'm not suggesting changing what we're doing so much as put down what we're doing in black and white as a board policy. Other than that, I have nothing more to say. These are always hard decisions for us, but I think we hold this position to represent and protect the community. And as Michael says, the licenses are a privilege, and we renew them on an annual basis. And I think that we should continue to treat our responsibility as the board has done historically in the past. So with that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Just as a side, Mr. Chairman, again, I want to thank them for at least coming forward and telling us that they're not going to appeal, going to
Mhm.
accept our decision, and again, wish you 30 more years of successful business in North Reading, and hopefully we see you
Hopefully
in
we
better
won't see you again.
circumstances. It's not here, Thank you.
Anyone here for public comment?
Public comment?
Town-owned land, annual
Mr. Chairman,
Oh.
there may be individuals in the audience for another agenda item. I don't know if we want to take them out of order, but
Oh, sure.
I don't know if there's anyone here for Carpenter Drive. Yes.
Carpenter Drive?
So I could provide a
You want to
brief.
brief the board first?
Sure, as to the reason why it's on the
You
agenda.
could sit at that table with the mic, too, if you prefer.
So the item is on the agenda because my office and multiple offices in the town hall were contacted with regard to a real estate transaction that I believe was scheduled to close last Thursday afternoon.
Correct.
And it's with regard to a home with an address on Carpenter Drive. Carpenter Drive is a road near Flint Road, on the north side of Chestnut Street, that is located on town-owned land and connects Chestnut Street with about 10 acres of town-owned land. It was a source of discussion at town meeting, I believe, in the year 2007, and a couple of Board of Selectmen meetings as well, whereby purchase and sale agreements were put in place between the town of North Reading and the North Reading Housing Authority for the property to potentially be developed as a multi-unit senior housing and/or assisted living facility. And in the course, my understanding is that in the course of those discussions to generate access, Mr. Steve O'Neill, are you Mr. O'Neill?
I am here.
Mr. O'Neill, Steve O'Neill, who owns the property that now has an address of 1 Carpenter Drive, agreed to construct access to this 10-acre parcel of land owned by the town of North Reading from Chestnut Street over town-owned property. He was authorized by the town administrator in 2009 to file a subdivision plan with the CPC, which was approved, I believe, in late 2009, further amended a couple of years later, that identifies Carpenter Drive as a way, and that way is now under construction. I believe there's a binder coat down on the road, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I actually have full lot release and a building permit.
Excellent. So my understanding, again, without going into too much of the detail, but the reason it's come up as an issue is because the buyer's title insurance company is questioning the ability to access Chestnut Street from 1 Carpenter Drive, or vice versa, I should say, over this so-called Carpenter Drive.
That's the way I understand it, yes.
And I believe that, I'm not sure whether the information's made it to you, but I believe she's a resident of town who was contacted at the offices here in town and asked for clarification. I did contact town council, and it appears that while we, meaning the town, could grant a license at this point in time for access over the property, that wouldn't be transferable with the property and it would be revocable at any point in time. So it would only temporarily cure the issue. I believe that we can remedy this by going to town meeting in October and obtaining authority through a town meeting article for the board to convey an easement in this town-owned land to make it accessible, to make 1 Carpenter Drive accessible over it, and then ultimately accept the road as an accepted road at a future town meeting once it's been fully constructed. So that's the remedy to the matter that's been proposed here based on the facts that have been provided to me and to town council with regard to the matter. And that's basically everything that I know at this point in time regarding the issue. I believe we're expecting a CPC member to be here this evening, but we'll text him to see if he's coming.
Mr. Prisco.
So just to make sure I understood, if the title insurance doesn't come through, is the buyers going to lose this property? Are you going to deny them the purchase of the property?
Yeah, tomorrow, if this isn't straightened out tonight.
But is it the buyer's fault?
I was promised, I'm gonna tell you the whole story. The town came to me over 6 years ago to access this. I never came to the town. I am broke because of this, and I have a buyer set up. I was promised all these things from the town, and I have followed everything. Chris Hayden, I don't know why he's not here, but he will corroborate. I have a building permit. There's no reason why I shouldn't have right to pass. All I need is a simple document to say I can. So I don't see why I have to go to town meeting and lose this deal. But if that's the way it has to be.
Well, Mr. O'Neill, I don't think the buyer wants to lose the deal. That's why I'm asking the question. They've contacted me and they've said that you're gonna take the deal away from them, and I just would like to see You know, it's us
I
to try to
can't
do,
wait.
we're trying to do
I
everything
can't
we
wait
can.
till October. I'm done.
Well, what is, I don't understand what that means.
I don't have any money. I'm broke.
Okay, but
I have buyers lined up.
they're gonna run into the same problem?
No, they're not. I don't think they are. I'll keep it for myself.
You're gonna run into the same problem.
Why would I need title insurance? I own it.
You don't have access.
Of course I have access. The town has promised me for years. This is all in writing from the CPC, everything. I have a lot release. I have a building permit. The building permit trumps
I
everything.
understand. It's sad that you're going to take that tact, and this particular family will be harmed because of this.
I'm being harmed by the town.
Mr. Chairman?
I think our intent here is to resolve an issue.
I believe it is as well, but I'm going
Yeah.
to make a suggestion. Mr. Hayden, who's on the CPC, who was at the table for much of the approvals that took place, he's on his way here. So I'm going to ask maybe we could continue on the agenda and come back to it when he's here. I think he has
Yeah.
information that's relevant.
I think it's, we got two residents here that are gonna be harmed, and, you know, we should do everything we can, and you're right, you have been promised a lot. And it's and it is a crappy situation you're in, but we shouldn't have two people in the end being harmed here, so let's try to find a solution that's valuable for both. And I think we can do that. I do. I
So
hope.
we're going
I
to
hope.
table this, waiting for Mr.,
Okay?
He's left his house now, so it's about 15 minutes or so,
okay.
maybe less.
Next item, review October town meeting articles. Why don't we go to the Kinder Morgan project, because I think we'll spend more time review of articles.
I don't have my notes.
Mr. Chairman?
You or Jeff going to speak?
I'm happy to brief the board, selectmen, and certainly fill in
Would
in
you
any way.
please? I'll fill in.
Sure. So the first thing is in the board's packet under this agenda item tonight was a copy of correspondence that I sent to the Energy Facility Siting Board 2 weeks ago with regard to their hearing process that they have been following. There were hearings held in the town of Drake earlier this month with regard to the State Energy Facility Siting Board's regulation of the pipeline. So we have a comment that's been put in. What's before the board this evening is a general discussion of the project and also a specific request to adopt a resolution that would allow the town to become an intervenor in the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission process. Basically, what becoming an intervenor would do is give us formal standing in the regulatory process once Kinder Morgan files a formal application with FERC. To my knowledge, that has not happened yet, but it's expected to happen any day. And upon doing that, it would authorize us to file with FERC to become an intervenor. An intervenor can be either somebody who is supporting or is an interested party or is opposing it. You don't necessarily need to have a perspective, but it gives you legal standing during the deliberative process that FERC follows to provide comment. It also obligates you to share your comment with all of the other intervenors, and it obligates those other intervenors to share with us the comment. So the discussion of becoming an intervenor, which I would certainly recommend, is the first matter that I think we ought to discuss. There are two other matters that are more timely that are on the horizon, and the first is that Selectman Yule, myself, and various departments are meeting with a representative of Kinder Morgan tomorrow here at the town hall for an update, as they've termed it. They'll provide us an update to the project. One of the pieces of information we hope to receive is updated mapping of the project, because as they disclosed at the hearing back in June, they have altered the route. So if there's any additional questions that need to be brought to Kinder Morgan, this would be an opportunity to identify them so that we can bring them to Kinder Morgan for that type of, for that discussion. In addition, Congressman Moulton has invited us, and I believe Selectman Yule and Moserio will both be attending on Wednesday morning to a briefing in his office and an opportunity to consult with the congressman regarding the project. So if there's any particular matters that we need to be bringing to the table there, this would be the opportunity to identify them. Kinder Morgan has come back and they have asked for permission to survey town-owned land after having come to the hearing that we held back in June. I've responded to them by saying that it's difficult for us to grant permission when they've now altered the route again and not provided us the information yet. And I don't think that it's malicious on their part, I just think that they haven't assembled the information to the level of detail that we need to be able to provide it. And I'm confident that once they do, they will provide it to us, and we'll be able to view that route in the context of town-owned parcels, zoning overlays, et cetera. So that's kind of the broad update as to where we stand with regard to the project.
If
Mr.
I
Yule.
may add, as you know, I was not here at the last meeting. I attended the FERC scoping meeting. I did speak, as many elected officials spoke as well, and many property owners, especially in Drake, since that's where the meeting was held. I reiterated what we have done, what our concerns were with regard to Article 97 of the Massachusetts Constitution, and the concerns we had with regard to the tariff that's floating around the State House of charging electrical customers to help pay for the pipeline. I also emphasized that because, as was stated in the last letter that we sent, I expressed the concern that there are just too many changes going on, that there are about somewhere around 10,000 to-be-determined dates of plans that they have, and the theme of all the elected officials were, we need more time to be able to look and see what they're doing so we can have proper input. I also went before the, and I forget, the Massachusetts, help me with the name of the Massachusetts,
Energy Facility Siting Board?
the Siting Board, yeah, the Massachusetts Siting Board. I went before them, and I basically said the same thing, that we need more time, and we have the concerns. Now, the important thing that I said to the Siting Board was that they must remember that their responsibility is to represent and to reflect the input from town governments, communities, property owners, and so on, and bring that to Firth. So there's a huge echo here, excuse me. And bring that to
That didn't solve the
FERC.
echo problem.
So,
Just hearing an echo.
Yeah, just turn the volume down on the speakers, I think.
Going back and forth, I'm trying, it actually comes in fine.
okay. So, so I attended those two meetings, and as Mr. Giliberto had said, that, we have a meeting tomorrow with Kinder Morgan, that's very important, and then we're going to be meeting with Congressman Moulton, and then we have, on the 31st, we have another Northeast Municipal Gas Pipeline meeting. So I want to reassure the community that we are very actively involved in passing on information so that they know that we're not just raising our hands and saying that there's nothing we can do. We're just trying to get the information. Our big key from the very beginning has been to take into consideration to protect the property owners, the sovereignty of North Reading, the environment, and those have always been our driving force behind our involvement. It's easy to make a decision and say one way or another whether we should support it or not, but it's more important that we put in the necessary time to make sure that we get all the information that is necessary, that we can make the best decision for the community. So, I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Any other board members have comment?
I would like to just ask a couple questions if I could quickly.
Yeah, sure.
It concerns me when I hear you say that it looks like Kinder Morgan's going to be smitten for their permit here with the FERC any day now, right? Is that what you said? I just want to make sure I heard.
That's the, I think that's the impression that the coalition that we've been participating in has.
Which a betting man would mean they must have some insight to know that they're gonna get an approval from FERC if they're gonna go through the trouble of submitting a permit, which worries me drastically. I am not in favor of this pipeline in any way, but to me, it seems like the train's left the gate on this thing, and that this pipeline's coming, it's gonna get jammed down all our throats, and I don't like it. And I hope that maybe when you have this conversation with Congressman Moulton, you can get some insight from him. But I'm worried that we're not taking a position to try to protect our residents, the ones that will be impacted. When you get this new mapping, and we see the abutters that are gonna be impacted, and the town that's gonna be impacted, that we should be sitting across the table with Kinder Morgan, negotiating a deal to make sure that these people are made right. They're made whole for the losses they're gonna have in their values, the interruptions that it's gonna cause, and every time they go to try to sell these houses, resell them, the value is going to be impacted, and we should do whatever we can to negotiate something for them now. Let's not wait for all the other communities to take that position. I think we should be working that now in conjunction with trying to stop this through FERC. I think we owe it to our residents to try to come up with a position with Kinder Morgan to protect them, their financial interests in the town.
Mr. Yu?
Yes, yes. From an economic point of view, you're correct. It has left the gate economically. They've already, because they're having the environmental impact review, to do that, they have to have already, must be the new,
Thank you.
the new people, huh? They, because they, the economic perspective has been basically approved, and that's telling, because they're having the only reason they can have the economic environmental review is because they've already said there's no harm to the communities economically. And that's,
Well, Jeff, I think that, our position is, to protect the community.
yes,
And those residents, and there's some town property too that fall into this. Now, protection may be, if FERC decides that it's gonna be a pipeline, it's gonna come down to the center of town, it's gonna come down to the center of town. But we have an obligation, as Mike brings out, and the timing isn't right yet, I don't think, but to get as much as we can for them, and to make sure that those residents whose property values, that might even be town property values, that have gone down as a result of having this gas pipeline running through their backyard, are properly compensated for it.
But I think the timing is right, because they want something right now. They want access to the privately owned land and the town-owned land. And I'm saying, fine, let's give them that access, but let's put something on the table before we agree to it. Let's get them to sit at
Well,
the table.
what I mean by that is that we've got a couple of what I think are critical turning point meetings now,
yeah.
right? And we got to go through the process. It seems like both the town administrator and Jeff are fully engaged in it.
Yeah.
I plan on attending both meetings this week with them. And
Yeah, which I want to thank you both for putting the tremendous amount of time into this. The community should really appreciate the amount of time you've put into this, and I certainly do too, but I just want you to give some thought to what I'm saying.
Mhm.
I just know when you're the last one to the table, or you're getting to the table with everyone else, it's a smaller piece of the pie to cut up. But Kinder Morgan wants something now. They want access now. So I'd like to have that what if. If we give you the access, what are we gonna get? It's, there's nothing wrong with having those discussions, but at the same time, let's keep the pressure on
Mhm.
at the state level. And
well, it's a face-to-face meeting with them coming up, right?
Right.
The representatives of
Yes, yes.
Kinder Morgan.
we're just gonna throw that out there for your thought. And
Right.
And I appreciate that, Mike. I really, I recognized your comment a while ago in that regard. I think from the very beginning, that's been a concern that we have had, is the impact it's gonna happen
Mhm.
on the property owners and the residents of the community. Because it's getting to the point where we do have to make a decision one way or the other. One of the big issues and the difficult issues is that because they're going through the environmental study process, and taking all the input in regard to that, is that many people are just simply opposed to the pipeline, and I understand that. I mean, trust me, I
No, it's
I-
coming through your
I get that.
backyard.
Right, exactly. Okay, so
Yeah, I would
I
think.
understand that. So when we talk about trying to work out a deal for them, that, there may not be any negotiating on one side, and we don't know that. And I hope to have that conversation down the road, a short piece, with some residents. I'd like to get some feedback from them in that regard. But, because it's easy, I mean, I like the idea, but it's easy to say, let's negotiate a deal. This is a local problem created by a national need that has international implications. That's what this is, and that's why it's really a lot bigger than us. So we gotta try to work on something that we can, for a little piece of the pie for the residents here in North Reading. What we need to be able to do is to make, whatever we are able to work out, is to make sure Kinder Morgan lives up to it. Because promises can be made and not kept, and that's a concern that I have.
Okay. So we have on the table,
2 o'clock tomorrow, I believe, right?
right,
Okay.
Correct.
And Wednesday is?
2 o'clock
Wednesday
and
morning.
then 10 o'clock, I
10
think.
o'clock, right.
I assume we're gonna meet at Town Hall here or something, and go together.
Well, I think you
we
have
need
an
to-
issue.
Yeah, we'll need to meet in Peabody from my
Right.
standpoint.
I can meet you at your house if you want.
Okay.
It's in that direction, right?
Yeah. It is. There's motion to, the board to become a
Yes.
An
Intervene.
intervener.
intervener?
And I apologize.
Fancy word.
I apologize for not having my notes. I labored on it, but my printer went down, and for some reason I can't send emails. So,
Apparently, there is not a motion in the
We
packet.
don't, but I did see the resolve.
Yes.
Do you want me to
Create one, please?
read?
I believe the resolution could be read, and that's what has been done in the
Is
past.
that
for
all we
resolution.
need?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Just read it in the form of a motion.
One second.
Oh, yeah.
I was at that.
I actually.
Would you like a paper copy?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
You can't find it, or?
Do you have it? I'm
I do
sorry
have
about
one.
that.
Just one moment. I come to the item.
I've got it. So, Mr. Chairman, I move that the board vote for a resolution of support to become an intervener in the Tennessee Gas Pipeline for a new natural gas pipeline known as the Northeast Energy Direct.
Yes.
And to read the resolve for consideration, whereas the Tennessee Gas Pipeline Company has proposed a new natural gas pipeline known as the Northeast Energy Direct Project to be constructed in Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. In Massachusetts, the project would include approximately 101 miles of new pipeline plus additional facilities in this region. And whereas we, the North Reading Board of Selectmen, do hereby strongly oppose the aforementioned pipeline as previously voted and evidenced by our active and vocal participation in the Northeast Municipal Gas Pipeline Coalition. And whereas once Tennessee Gas files its formal application with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the Board of Selectmen resolved to become an intervener, which is an official party to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission's proceeding. Interveners play a more formal role in the process and are able to file briefs, appear at hearings, and be heard by the courts if they choose to appeal the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission's final ruling. Whereas, as an intervener, the Board of Selectmen can formally participate in the proceeding by filing a request to intervene within the required 21-day window if it is deemed needed by the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Now therefore be it resolved that the North Reading Board of Selectmen do hereby resolve and vote to become an intervener once Tennessee Gas files its formal application with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Further, the Board of Selectmen resolved to become an intervener, which is an official party to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission's proceeding. and/or any other actions considered necessary by the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. Additionally, the North Reading Board of Selectmen do hereby instruct the town administrator to stand ready to file a motion to intervene. In witness whereof, we, the North Reading Board of Selectmen, do hereby set our hands and affix the great seal of the town of North Reading this 24th day of August, 2015. Move to propose that we vote to enter this resolve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second,
Mr. Yule, second. Mr. Yule, second.
I second it.
Second by Mr. Yule.
And,
Any further discussion?
yeah, just the reason why we're doing this, I'm not sure if I caught it, Mr. Gilberto had said, probably did, but just to make sure, if they decide, if they get the, if FERC approves the pipeline, and it's in between meetings that we have, and it just turns out we wouldn't be able to react in time, this gives us the opportunity to become interveners immediately.
Okay.
Am I?
We understood that, Michael?
There's no cost associated with being part of this
No.
group.
Just our own time.
They have asked for some support,
Well,
monetary
I
support.
mean, probably something we should think about as we go into the budget season.
Mhm.
If, you should keep it in mind.
Yeah.
If there's something there, I mean, sometimes you need a little bit of front money to be more effective as a coalition. So that's all, I'm just bringing it up
But
now.
excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Mike.
No, no.
The only concern there is that the coalition is made up of many, many towns and many individuals. So we have to be careful in that regard, because it's a great coalition. They do super work, they're very informative, but always have to be careful.
Okay, with that, any further discussion? Mr. O'Leary?
Just in relation to the prior discussion, my concern is that we certainly don't want to convey, I certainly don't want to convey any type of an impression that we're rolling over and embracing the fact, believe that this is coming to town. To me, I think we need to go down swinging. I'm not confident or sure, but my guess is, how they treat, should they be successful in their application, and, how they treat the easements and land crossings and whatever else they're gonna be taking and utilizing. My guess is there's some sort of a pattern and formula that they're using along the way, and, I don't know how much more you can extract from them, by allowing them access to survey. I mean, they're doing the surveying from the air anyway. It's already taking place. You see the helicopters flying over town, and they're probably using drones. So it's, they're getting a significant amount of information already. I know, as a matter of fact, that there are a number of residents that are affected that will never, ever sign off for any amount of dollars and allow Kinder Morgan on their property any type of access in order to facilitate their application process. And I guess I don't blame them. So I would just caution us that if we're going to engage in that type of discussion, that we don't undermine those people. Because
No,
it's their property, it's their rights,
I agree.
and we shouldn't be negotiating that away,
Right.
even, because they're going into this eyes wide open too. And, my conversations with a
My
number of people.
understanding is, by becoming an intervener.
No, I'm
we
all in
can
favor of
talk
this.
directly-
No, I'm talking about the prior comments that we were having here amongst the board members. No, the intervener thing, that's we must do.
Objecting to my
No,
recommendation.
No, I mean, I understand that the position is just, I just know my conversations with a number of people in town that are impacted.
Oh, okay.
They're no way, and I just want to make sure that, while it makes good fiscal sense, to maybe take a look at what you're suggesting.
It doesn't
Many
matter what
many
stance
times,
they
it's
take.
not necessarily a monetary issue. It's it can be emotional, and it can be, just a statement of protest in relation to, big government and big industry, shoving something down your throat and no dollar amount's gonna satisfy you or make you whole. So, let's just not do it in a vacuum, and I know we won't, because I know there are a lot of other people, other communities that are feeling the same way. But no, as far as being an intervener, I mean, this is something we have to do.
Right.
We should do. Makes sense. But I
Okay,
just
so on
would
the
caution.
motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. I want to go back to our discussion of
We'll probably ask for another signature at a later point in time.
Carpenter Drive. I see Chris has joined us here.
Sorry, I was late.
So,
One for now. We're going to end up asking you to sign it again without the number 9 on it.
I think maybe we ought to hear a little bit from Chris as to where we are with this. So, you know, obviously, the board, we put it on the agenda tonight to try to resolve it for both parties.
Right.
But we have to
So, a little
move
history.
through the legal wranglings, which
Right.
includes town meeting.
It does.
But our town administrator has looked into some potential ways of, putting a bridge between now and town
Okay.
meeting approval.
So, several years ago, Mr. O'Leary, you were on the board. I don't know if you were on the board, Bob.
Bob was there, oh yeah, Bob was a
Okay.
strong advocate for it, yeah.
The DPW and the Council on Aging, more of the Council on Aging, came to us, said that they had a chance to go for a grant to build some elderly housing on a 10-acre parcel behind Chestnut Street, off of this parcel that we own, the 50-foot right-of-way.
Mhm.
And they had spoken
Thank you.
with Mr. O'Neill on that, on building the road, which would access his parcel. And we would, originally said that we would assist him with maybe some partial material costs or, sharing on asphalt, which we get at a discounted rate because of the collaborative we're in and things like that. And, would we look at it and push it through quickly? So we did, Steve came with it wasn't a subdivision plan. I guess it was a right of way to get access. He had to create frontage for his property because there was no frontage
Mhm.
that was traveled. You can be on a paper street that's that's accepted by town, but if it's not traveled, it's not considered frontage. So Mr. O'Neill had to create frontage for himself and frontage or an access into the property because the people who the grant was coming from needed access to the property. You couldn't write the grant without access to the property. So Mr. O'Neill was gonna give us access to the property. They wrote the grant failed. Mr. O'Neill went on his way trying to get this done. He had started it because it needed to be started when they put the grant in. So Mr. O'Neill went on and, he went as far as he could. When his money ran out, he stopped and it came back and forth. And so he finally was able to finish it to binder this year, 3 weeks ago. We've made a couple of minor changes to the original plan, but nothing that would hurt the town. If it was ever when we ever use that property in there, and I believe we've put it over to the Council on Aging, I'm not sure if they have that time.
Housing
It's still on
Authority.
the- It's still with the selectmen?
It's a housing authority, still with the
Housing
selectmen.
Authority.
So
okay.
Mary did come to the board, and I think there was, 10 acres there, something
Yes.
like that. And the board at the time, because she was applying for a grant, she did it a couple of years in a row.
Right.
Needed, so we granted 5 acres without ever defining which 5 acres. Right. But the objective was that that was needed for the grant. What I didn't know, or at least it went right over my head, was that this access piece had to be created and be present. So whatever was done seemed to be done through the CPC. and
Right,
the board was not necessarily involved in that.
No, and I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that.
So it's caught me by surprise. Michael called me the other day and said, "What's this all about?" Because, and I'm saying, well, I recall the land grant to Mary, and that she never got the grant, so it just sits here. A couple of years ago, I had brought up saying, you know, if we could find a way of maybe finding a assisted living developer to develop part of the property and maybe we could work out an agreement where we get some senior housing built and they could use the, you know, the core facility of the
Mhm.
assisted living, which would be a win-win for both sides. But the road never came up.
Right.
So I think the board and the town administrator at this point want to find a solution that would impact both the potential of the person that's got a purchase and sale agreement, I guess. They're not here this evening, Mike?
No, they're not
To your
here.
knowledge, right?
Mr.
And the
O'Neill
builder.
owns the property
I own it.
You own the property.
today.
Right.
So,
So when we looked at the property, it was 50 foot in the depth into the town property. We thought, you know, erroneously that there would be, that he had access rights to the road. And I guess he doesn't. It wasn't, and if we had known that, we would have been here earlier to get that, you know, to give him an easement across that land. We were using that land, it creates frontage, and once it's an accepted road, you know, he could use it, but the roadway is not to a level of being an accepted roadway. It's good enough to travel for one household, and a few things that need to be finished up will be finished up if a project goes in the back. So I know the board would be fine with supporting giving an easement over that property, over the roadway for this property in question. We can all go back, we're all sure, anybody that was there, Pat, myself, and Warren were on the board at the time, and we all were sure that he had rights in that strip of land. And it's interesting that somehow, when that was created, nobody deeded rights to that landlocked piece of land, because it's landlocked. He has no other access to that.
mhm.
So, and that's why we figured, it's 50 feet wide,
Right.
that's your standard right away with, you know,
So-
and usually you deed, when you have that kind of area, you deed access rights to the people on it, especially something that's landlocked.
So right now, we provided Mr. O'Neill permits,
He has a foundation permit.
but he doesn't have legal rights to access the property.
Well, the
Which is
building
crazy.
inspector gave him a foundation permit, so he says he's got
I'm just saying, we set
frontage
this poor
on
man up
a
for
road
failure.
right away.
We set this
So-
man up for failure, and now we have another resident in town
Right.
who's gonna be victim to it because he's gonna back out of the purchase and sale with them because the title insurance company won't sign off, which they shouldn't, because
Right.
they don't have legal right.
Right.
So we really gaffed this one, Chris.
Yes.
I'm telling you, I'm so upset and disappointed because Mr. O'Neill is now gonna have some financial issues with this whole thing, and he expressed to us tonight that he already has. And then we have another family who's gonna lose out on a home that they really wanted. And I don't know what their personal situation is, I'm not gonna get involved in that, but, you know, our job here is to kind of try to help our townspeople, right?
Mhm.
Well, what do we do here? How do we make this work for both? Any of you board members that have been on the board a long time have any idea how we can make this right for both of them? Or is it the answer, Mrs. Rika, the purchaser of the property has to lose out? Is that the answer?
So
Michael,
this
you have-
document, oh, sorry.
You have investigated some options, right?
I have, yes. I mean, again, I'm only looking to memorialize what it appears was a well-established intention going back a number of years. And in this particular case, to grant an interest in the property that could survive from one owner to the next, it would need to be the granting of an easement. And while the board does have the authority to sell the land at this point in time to the North Reading Housing Authority, it does not have the authority to do anything else with it. So to resolve this, we would need to go to town meeting as soon as, I know I say soon, relatively speaking, as soon as the October town meeting where we could get the authority to grant the easement. And then in the interim period, it's clearly our intention to allow Mr. O'Neill or the successor to access the property. We've let them drive over it, we've let them construct it on our property without opposing it over the past number of years. A license would allow us to memorialize that relationship between now and the recording of the easement after the town meeting, But again, that license would not survive with the property, it would be revocable at any point in time. Not that the town would intend to revoke it, but that's the, I think that the challenge with that. But I certainly would advise the board to authorize a license to be signed. I just don't know that it will solve the challenge that's been identified here by the title council.
So this right to pass document that was drawn up by my attorney who's sick, he can't be here tonight, Joe DeBlasi, and their attorney, it's in my name, it's not in the, I don't understand why this just can't be signed, so I could just pass on this. I mean, this is, to me, I'm just very confused at this whole thing, because
Me too.
I didn't ask for this. The town did come to me,
Right.
and everybody agrees with that, and I'm broke because of it.
Right.
So, we got a problem here.
I think we as the town need to engage with this title company on behalf of our residents and make this right. We owe it to them. I know we don't typically do that, but I think we owe it to them.
Well, let's break this down into a couple pieces. If we grant a license, right, then he has access, legal access to his property, his current property. But it
Correct.
doesn't solve the issue of the title company. Is that
Correct.
my understanding?
That's my suspicion. I contacted.
This document is what they're looking for, if you want to read it
No,
over.
please.
Mr. O'Neill, that document, you feel confident that we could sign that and that would be,
I do, only through my attorney, collaborated with the title insurance attorney. Proofread it and everything and said, get them to sign this, and we're good to go. And he'll issue the title insurance.
great.
Again, my attorney's not here. This is
Then
what,
we would have
I
our
did not
town
draw
council.
up that, let's just put it that way.
No, but we could have our town council look at it too.
I appreciate the promotion to selectmen, though. Thank you.
We don't have the authority to grant an easement. I don't
Oh, I don't
understand
know what
how
this
we
is.
have the authority to grant a license. It's not.
This document, if signed, would clearly achieve the issue of granting an easement from the town of North Reading to that property located at 1 Carpenter Drive, in parentheses. Again, the challenge becomes the board's authority to legally sign it needs to be memorialized in a town meeting vote, and that's not happened. It's something that I think we're all committed to addressing at the October 5th town meeting as a way to memorialize this, but the board unfortunately is not in a position to authorize it. I mean, the board certainly could sign it, but it wouldn't have any legal standing, and I wouldn't advise the board to sign it until the vote at town meeting occurs.
We would still need authorization to sign a license, you know?
If it were revocable, I think that council's opined in the past that we could issue the license so long as it were revocable.
Wouldn't be worth that to the developer or the purchaser.
That's what we thought. I did communicate that back, by the way, to the prospective buyer, that I thought that the town would be, amenable to doing that, and that we could do that legally, but I don't know whether that will satisfy the concern. I suspect it won't.
Well,
You can pass this.
Just as far as, Mr. Chairman, as far as this particular parcel, I mean, we have parcels of town-owned land that we can sell now. We can do things with.
We're gonna talk
Only
about it.
certain parcels require town meeting action. Obviously, this was, and again, I don't know if it was tax title land or how we acquired it, I forget.
I believe it was tax title.
So if it's tax title, then we need town meeting action in order to transfer it. Again, the only action that we have authorizing us to do that was specific to the housing authority. It wasn't a
Yeah,
carte
and we went
blanche.
to town meeting.
Yeah, so it wasn't carte blanche for us to do whatever we wanted with it.
Mhm.
In addition, I was just looking at the motion before the town meeting, which was voted on, was gonna convey it to the housing authority, and it restricted the housing authority from conveying any portion of this property to anybody else under the age of, unless they were over 62 and income qualified.
And yet Mary signed the document.
No, well, then again, it wasn't done in a vacuum.
Right.
It wasn't done in a vacuum, obviously. So maybe that's even questionable. But, to Mr. O'Neill's point here, I mean, he first of all, he was very cooperative in working with the town in order to facilitate the grant application and the project that we had embraced. But timing, financing, grant proposals, falling by the wayside, he still kept to his commitment over a period of time in order to facilitate it. It appears to be under somewhat of a false pretense that he had full and adequate access to do so. So we need to correct that anyway. Whether someone's gonna come in and be a cash buyer or not worry about it, that's up to them. But at some point, we wanna clear it up anyway, and I think it would be the intent of the board to do it, the first session of October town meeting, get it done.
Okay.
Get it cleared up. As far as, our intervening on behalf of the would-be purchaser, I mean, that's a business transaction between you and the other party. I would hope, and I feel badly if it falls through, but that's not for us to decide, that's for he and the other party to decide. It's not as though I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna convey this to you, because he didn't, he did this with full expectation.
No, but we could draft a letter to the insurance company, the title insurance company,
Yeah, expressing our intent.
expressing our intent.
Expressing
We
our
could
intent
do
to do
that.
so. Now, whether that
Whether or not
satisfies
they-
Mr. O'Neill or not, I do.
Whether or not they buy that is,
I wouldn't know.
I'm sorry, but I'm in the business, and I think what you're doing to these people is wrong. I'm in the business.
What I'm
This is what I
doing?
do for a living, yeah.
What
I
is-
know
how
that-
about
I
the
know
town
you've
of
been-
North
I
Reading?
know he's been
hold
harmed.
it, hold it.
But hold on, these people, you can
I'm
make
very-
it work.
What, I'm-
Hold it.
that's-
We
I'm
can make
very-
it work for both parties
hold
here.
it. I'm very, very confused here, okay? We're talking about one subject and you're talking about another.
No, it's the
Or
same.
I'm missing something here.
He's going to back out of this deal with this purchaser, blaming it on the town. And the town has a lot to be blamed about.
Yeah,
But there's no reason for you to back out of the deal with them. There just doesn't make
I
any
have to
sense.
start building, the
Other-
winter's coming, I
Other
can't
than
wait till
economics,
October.
but
Well, you could start building. Why can't you start building? Why can't you work with them to start building? You could still exchange cash and start building. Doesn't mean
They
you need
can't-
this document to do
They need the
that.
money from the bank to finance this project,
And
and the
there-
bank is
therefore
not
they
gonna give
need
it to them
The title insurance.
because of the title insurance.
that's not his fault. And again, I feel for these people too. But it's, again, that's a separate transaction. They have fallen victim to, the lack of transfer of adequate access, and easements and access over the course of time. But it's,
I mean, we have
I'm not
to-
gonna sit here and
We have to work with
and
them.
hold him
along.
up. I'm looking to help facilitate it, and hopefully he can do it, but I mean, economically, if it's gonna put it back 6, 8 weeks, and, I don't know, that's up to him and the other party,
Okay.
But, I sympathize, I feel badly, and we need to fix it. We need to fix it, but whatever decision Mr. O'Neill decides to make with his property is Mr. O'Neill's
Well,
decision.
Mr. O'Neill doesn't have rights to get to his property. He
That-
really doesn't. Legally, he doesn't.
Well, I'm certainly not gonna deny that, because the thing is, he built that adequate access
I
there
understand.
in order for us
And I
to
don't
get
wanna
access
deny
to
it
10
either.
acres of land. He did it
I was looking for
as a good
reasonableness
faith-
on both sides here.
So it's,
Very reasonable, I built you guys a road.
You did, absolutely. I know that. All I'm looking for is to try to protect both parties in this. And unfortunately, it looks like one's gonna be left out in the cold.
He doesn't have anything invested, I got hundreds of thousands of dollars in it, I'm broke. So I don't even get the comparison, I'll be honest with you.
Okay, that's fine.
Mr. O'Leary, you were thinking, or?
no, I mean, I'm just in favor of putting forth an article for the October town meeting and for the early numbers, first session of town meeting, to resolve the issue. You
Yeah,
know,
I think we have to
yeah,
resolve
right.
the issue no
Yeah,
matter
so
what.
resolve the issue regardless, and get it done earlier in the meeting, and whether we do it one night or 2 nights, but get it done and over with, and correct what's been done as far as an injustice to Mr. O'Neill, and again, recognizing the investment that he's made in order to provide us access to the 10 acres of land. And if you can see a way clear to help these other people through, that's fine, but to me, that's a business decision that I'm not looking to stick my nose into. That's up to you. But there's no doubt, you've been harmed at this point, because it limits your ability to sell the property, and you didn't know it. You thought you had everything you needed,
Absolutely.
because you already
That's
owned
not
the
the only
land.
breach the town had, there's a ton of them.
Okay.
So,
So it's, so I would suggest inclusion, and
Mrs. Manapelli, I think, wants to say something, so.
And again, newcomer to the facts here, not having the historical facts that you do, I'm not willing to say that the town has harmed anyone at this point. I can barely read the documents, but I think that there was a subdivision plan that had terms and conditions upon it. I'd like more of an opportunity to review that, but I would agree with you. If it has to be done in a legal process, let's follow that legal process. That's the only right way to correct everybody's situation and issues here. And I agree with you. But I'm not so quick to, cast a blame if they were.
The thing is, in relation to the whole picture of what was going on here, we needed safe and adequate access to the acreage, and Mr. O'Neill was approached by the town and the housing authority to work with us at his expense to give us the opportunity to apply for the grants to get the project up and going. And he did it. And in return for his willingness to do so, he was given a letter from the town administrator saying, go ahead and go forth to the planning commission and file a subdivision plan in order to facilitate the whole thing. And everybody's followed through, other than the grant wasn't approved, the transfer to the housing authority was never made, and we never perfected Mr. O'Neill's interest, because we still have access to the land now, his interest in the access to his property. So it was a win-win at the time, and I still think it's a win-win. We just need to get it.
There were
Split
moving pieces that didn't occur, though, and that looks like this was approved some time ago. It looks like this permit just issued a couple of weeks ago. So I think there's conditions that have to be reviewed, but I'm in favor of doing it in the proper way that we're talking about. Putting
I mean, we can't do anything
Right.
until the first week of October, because our hands are tied. We can't sign anything until we go to town meeting, get authorization to do it, and then do it. This is as soon as we can do anything.
No, I agree.
So how about the letter that Mr. Messeri suggested?
Well, I
I think you can get a consensus of the board, that it's our intent to.
well, this would be a letter just to, a letter of our intent.
Right.
At town meeting, subject to town meeting's approval.
Right.
Right. I think we can do that. It might help
Yeah.
help both parties. So we could have
draft a
town
letter.
council draft something up for that.
Then again, I don't anticipate.
Well, my understanding is that the people that have a purchase and sale agreement on their lot, right, need title insurance to get the money from the bank.
For the construction, right.
And the title insurance company is saying, wait a minute, we can't do that. Now, will they do it with a letter from us? That's all that we can do.
Yeah, that's up to the bank, if
Yeah.
they're willing to do it. It's up to the bank.
Can we have our council, though, talk to Title's council? At least make that extra effort to see if that will help this along? I think when you have council talking to council, you may explain the situation.
I could certainly engage council to do that, yes.
Well, is that the wishes of the board at this point?
Well, their transaction, like Mr. O'Leary said, is a private transaction, that we shouldn't be imposing any
Well, we did.
representations.
But we did, we created this problem.
No, I don't.
You can't just turn your back on it. We created the problem.
Oh, what
I
I'm
don't
suggesting,
think we're
all what I'm
turning off the
suggesting
bat.
is that we provide a letter to the title company expressing our intent. That's all that we can do.
That's,
Now, whether you want to put it together and have our council talk to their, to the council for the title insurance company, I guess
See
I
what
don't
it
have a
hurts.
problem with that. But we're not committing to anything. What we're saying
No,
is,
we
it's our
can't.
intent to convey the property, subject to our town meeting vote, which is scheduled for October 7th, I
All I'm
guess.
expressing,
Whatever it
having
is.
council talk to council, is that it adds a level of, it reduces the risk when you have that level of conversation, that's all I'm saying. Because it's all about risk on the borrower's
Mhm.
part, on the lender's part.
and I don't think we can,
What?
we're just considering or asking on a warrant article for considering granting an easement access easement over that land. We haven't even accepted that, right?
Well, it's two steps, so then we have to go through the whole legal process of getting all of the documents together, and the street has to meet certain requirements before it can be accepted
So
as a
that's
street,
down the road,
which
yeah.
would be, you know, a year from now.
Well, that's
or-
up to the planning commission. Yeah.
Right. And Chris can explain that in more detail, but.
Yeah, the street has to be the right width, and you have to have all your curbs in, guardrails, everything has to be functioning, you have to have, your asphalt has to be up to specifications. Though, to grant a building permit and access to a piece of property, it doesn't have to be an accepted street. It has to be, you have to have an easement on an accepted way that's safe and adequate. This way now, or this parcel of land, which we're gonna use as a roadway, access way, is perfectly fine as access. The building inspector actually granted the foundation permit. He would not have done that if this roadway was not up to snuff. Okay, you can drive the fire truck down there and turn around in the driveway. So you could take the ladder truck down this dead-end road and be able to, if there was a fire at the building, service the building, back out and get out of the roadway without having to back all the way back up the roadway. And that's part of what we do for adequate access. It's 2-lane, it's 28 feet wide, I believe. Do we go 28?
28 right now, with the berm, it's gonna be 26.
Yeah, so, and that's perfectly fine. That's probably better than North Street in some places, at this end. So, putting a building there, at this point, it's not a problem, except that doesn't have an easement across the property.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Yu.
What are our deadlines here? Excuse me, what are our deadlines? You seem to have a deadline, and I thought you said something like tomorrow, but,
Well, it was supposed to be last week, so
okay.
anytime.
So I'm trying to get a feel from you, and I understand and appreciate your circumstance, but I want to get a feel from you. You apparently want to start work right away. Is that
Stop
correct?
work? Yes,
Yeah, on
correct.
construction. How much leeway are you able or willing to give us in solving the problem from the town's perspective?
Well, to achieve what, if the end game is October or whatever, I don't have that time.
So I don't know what we're talking about anymore.
He's talking about cash flow.
Well, I
sounds
know, I
like-
understand that.
It sounds like the current buyer, the only way they can come up with the money that's needed is they go to the bank. The bank requires something the bank can't give them because they can't get title insurance. Based on what I'm hearing from Mike, there are other buyers. If these people default, he has some other buyers that can come up with the cash and get things moving. His concern is his calendar and getting work done before winter sets in.
Mhm.
And he's also got a cash flow problem, obviously. He's got a
Yeah.
lot of money tied up, and it's not happening. So I think the best that we can do, living within the rules that we have to provide, is to move forward with providing that easement at October town meeting and sending a letter off to the title company. And, you know, whether they accept it or not, it's
but-
beyond our control.
With what we're suggesting here, I don't think he's waiting that long. Correct?
That's his choice.
Well, no, I understand, I'm not being critical, don't misunderstand me. Whatever we do doesn't seem like it's going to impact
Well,
what he's going to do.
no, I think the only thing
Well, it
that,
ultimately has to be straightened out, right? So,
the only thing that impacts him, based on what I'm hearing, and, you know, I don't have all the facts, but what's been implied is that if this, by the people that have a purchase and sale agreement, if they can't come up with the money right, then the deal is out, and he's got another buyer waiting, right? And he wants to get moving, and he wants some money, and he doesn't have any money right now.
And to.
So the only way he's gonna get money is to sell,
Somebody else.
you know, sell the
to-
property.
To try and appreciate Mr. Prisco's perspective here and intent, which is, I think, to be applauded for his intent in trying to find out, work out something here. Because this gentleman here, for years, has come forward and helped the town. The family involved went and purchased some property to build a house, okay, and it's clashing based on what has happened in the past. So I understand Mr. Prisco's intent, but when I listened to Katie, you know, and Steve, I mean, it is a business transaction between them two. So I don't know, you know, we're doing what we're doing, but we're really not accomplishing anything in the near term because he has to do what he has to do.
No.
Well, 6 weeks,
There's two-
we're
there's
hoping to
two-
get it cleared up.
There's two
But
issues here.
that's- that-
One issue is to get an easement that should have been taken care of some time ago, right? And then to move forward with, you know, getting this, if it's gonna be a street, to get it accepted based on the path that we're
But
on.
that's between Mr. O'Neill and the CPC.
Right. Right. The other issue is that he's got a buyer who's got a purchase and sale agreement, who can't come up with the money, so they're gonna default on it, and I guess from what I'm hearing, I don't know how true it is that he's got another buyer that is willing to move quickly, must have,
Without the title. insurance.
without the
Without
title insurance, he's got the money, and this guy needs some money to move on. So, we're out of that. The best that we can do is send a letter to the title company saying, telling him what we're gonna do in October, and if that doesn't satisfy him, we're out of the game.
So that's gonna take a certain amount of time, and we're asking him to give us that time, is what we're doing.
It's gonna take, tomorrow morning sometime. It's not gonna take
Title companies
forever.
I deal with, they seem to take forever.
I think we should be able to have a document that could be signed tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah.
And they get it.
And we have no control over what he does.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we include an article on the October 2015 town meeting, annual warrant, an article to effectuate a right to pass and repass, AKA an easement, at, I believe it's 71R,
Yes.
71R Chestnut Street, to Mr. Stephen J. O'Neill,
Second.
as trustee of 69 Chestnut Street Rear Realty Trust.
I heard a second by Mr.
Second.
Yule. Do we need further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And I will personally ask the town administrator to put that letter together.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I was going to, again, make a motion that the administration draw up a letter of intent as to what the board's intent is in relation to this proposed article, to be drafted and conveyed to Title Insurance Council and Mr. O'Neill in relation to time, date, and place as to what we're trying to do.
There a
Under your
second?
signature.
Second by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
No, hold on.
No? Okay, I'm sorry.
Can you just explain to me what you just, I couldn't
Just
really hear.
authorizing him to put a letter together as to what the board's intent is, to put forth and support an article to grant an easement to Mr. O'Neill, to be given to Title Insurance Council and Mr. O'Neill, just stating our intent for the October town meeting, under the chairman's signature.
I'm in support of it, but I still believe firmly that our council could call even his council and title council tomorrow and try to at least have some conversation to try to get title council to release. I know you guys don't want to get involved in it,
No, I'm
but
okay
I
with that, I'm
think,
okay with that too, and the chairman
Yeah.
and the town administrator have the authority to go to town council and authorize them to do it, and I'm in favor of that.
okay. Then I'm in favor of this. That's fine.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank that.
Well, thank you.
Was
You don't
that
have
the
to-
letter of
That-
intent?
That's the letter, that's the letter of
Okay,
intent.
so, yeah.
And then the chairman and the town administrator have the authority to go to town council.
Right.
And the will of the board is to have that happen.
Okay.
She's
So,
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks, Chris.
Chris, for,
No problem, sorry I was late. I was on the way home from Westfield when you called me.
Hey, you might want to stick around for this other one.
For that one? I have one favor in that. We go through these parcels every year. and we
No,
get
no,
ans-
not the town-owned land one.
Oh,
We're gonna talk about the other one
what other one?
I think we should, I believe the couple's
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
up on
It's not on the agenda.
Magnolia.
No, it was intended to be discussed as part of the warrant article review.
Magnolia Drive?
yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Taylor, correct?
Magnolia Road.
I can hang around if you want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this has to do with the Eisenhower Pond land taking,
Oh, okay.
since you were around for that too.
So the background,
Sure.
Warren would be better on that,
Yeah, yeah.
because he did all the legal things with that stuff, but, okay.
By way of background, very briefly, but essentially the couple that's before you here purchased a home at 13 Magnolia Road around the turn of the year and end of last year, on or about January 1st, I believe. And upon acquiring it, it became clear through the review of plans after Title V was signed off by a certified inspector that the septic system for the property is located on town-owned property with an address of 11 Magnolia Road. This property that was taken by the town as part of the 2005 land takings associated with the Eisenhower Pond Park being established. It was taken both as it was taken both for the park, but also for back taxes at the time in the amount of about $2,500 plus or minus for both this parcel, number 11 Magnolia, and also a second parcel that was involved. I believe it's number 15 Magnolia. It might be on the other side of your house. So those properties became property of the town. Consulting with council, they are, as part of a park, protected as Article 97 open space land. And the challenge is, and I don't want to speak for Mr. and Mrs. Taylor, but I think I know the situation pretty well at this point in time. The challenge is that their well and their septic system are not located the appropriate distance either from each other or perhaps in one case from the house as well, if I'm not mistaken. And I know that she has a private matter ongoing with Title V, with the company that provided the Title V survey at the time of the purchase, but she has come forth and I think first and foremost is asking for the right to access the town-owned land at 11 Magnolia Road for purposes of determining whether there's any other place on that land that a septic system could be located to achieve the needs for her property. A longer-term solution would obviously potentially be the conveyance of this property to Mr. and Mrs. Taylor for potential construction of a septic system within the appropriate setbacks from the well and from the house on the property. I think that's a pretty quick summary as to what I have, but certainly, Mr. Chairman, through you, would yield to Mr. or Mrs. Taylor if they have additional information they want to share.
at this point, if either one of you would like to come up and make a comment. Just your name and address for our secretary, although she probably
Valerie
has it
Taylor,
already.
Valerie Taylor, 13 Magnolia Road, North Reading.
Did you have title insurance?
I did, I do, and I do and did, and I have inquired with them, but haven't gotten a response yet.
Wonder why.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was curious.
Good.
I don't know how you got this far without them catching it.
Nor do I. I don't know.
So is it the two parcels that used to own, that the Zwickers used to own, that the town ended up taking, one for tax title, one for the park?
So there was, my understanding is there were two takings. One was taken in March of 2005. One was, it was originally taken in January 2005 for this park purpose, and then subsequently taken 2 months later for taxes. I would imagine the operative taking would be the, for parks and the park taking, because they were both recorded, you know, but.
So just to speak to that, I was able to dredge up something from the Treasury today, which answered that question, that the pro tanto amount paid for this land, the land formerly owned by the Zwicker family, I believe it was 2 lots, was about $12,000 $500. It was determined that the damages at the time of the taking were about $15,500. And the balance was perfected through the foreclosure that took place for back taxes a couple of months later. I have some documentation I can give you, I found it today. It'll shed a little more light on the taking,
Okay.
but,
So the back taxes became the pro tanto
it became part of it, yeah.
for that one parcel? That was like a
It
wash.
was a
So, I
portion
mean,
of
the
it,
pro
yes.
tanto, and then afterward, the settlement increased the amount of money that we paid for that property.
Or decreased what was paid to?
It decreased
Decreased what
paid.
was paid to the owners?
That's correct, for two parcels.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's the two parcels that you're looking,
So right now, what we need, we've had a septic company come out. Right now, we have a failed septic system that is leaching onto town property. We've inquired with local septic companies to see if we can change our septic system on the land that we have right now, just as an immediate remedy. And from the two that I've spoken with, is that there's no place to put it on our lot. So what we're looking for is that we get lot 11 conveyed back to us, which would give us adequate space. Right now, we're operating with a field system and 30 feet within, our well with 3 toddlers. So, I mean, we have major concerns about that right now.
So the process that we will have to go through is, one, to go to town meeting, and then we have to go petition the legislature to revert that money, that lot, which is currently listed as, it falls into the conservation land, even though.
Parkland, open space.
Parkland, no.
Parkland. Get it conveyed back.
what's it called?
So then-
Article 97 or
Article
something?
97.
Article 97.
So then we could sell it to,
But don't we have to have an equal amount to designate?
I think there's a
in
question
lieu of-
about, this is not conservation land, it's parkland, I don't know.
So we have to
But-
find
That
another
would be
equal-
conservation land, you do have to have equal amounts, but I don't think parkland as well, but
Yeah.
I think we're gonna face the issue. I think that we're going to have to stress that this is, that we are remedying a taking, the previous taking. I mean, I
What
can't.
size is that, do you know, making our research?
I have a property card here.
What's your recollection of the square footage of the lot?
They're all half-acre lots.
Exactly, .52.
So you said lot 11,
Lot 11.
and how much did we roughly pay for
We
lot
paid
11?
approximately $15,500 for 2 lots, which I believe were of similar size at the time of the taking.
For 2 lots, so.
And that was, again, including the $2,500 in back taxes for,
Well, one's lot 11, what's the other lot?
Lot 15.
You don't care about 15. And that's where the current septic system is?
The current septic system is on 13 Magnolia as well as 11 Magnolia.
Okay.
And the taking actually took up to 4 inches from my foundation of my house. So the taking took actually up to like the door, so. But there's no variance or anything that was filed with that taking. So.
Okay.
So we've lost a large portion of our driveway as well.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, so, what was it, 11 or 15?
15.
Okay, so 15, how does that impact you?
It doesn't.
It
It was just
doesn't.
included in the taking.
Okay,
It's
so,
just lot
We just
11.
clumped
so-
them together.
So as you recall,
Mhm.
right,
too well.
that whole
Too well.
area, wherever there was a house, right, it was not our intent to take anything.
No, or a septic system.
Right.
Right, we didn't, obviously, we didn't know
Or
it was
being
there.
4 inches from a lot line either, I would think would have
No,
been
but
an
as you
issue.
said, you know,
I
some
don't
of the
ever
property
recall
cards. No,
any
not
of
the-
that.
no.
To rectify this, there's gonna have to be a cash transaction to have them purchase the property from the town.
Which we can't do until,
So we're talking roughly $7,500 to $10,000, somewhere in there? Just ballpark
You-
figure, I'm
round
just,
number, yeah.
just throwing it out there.
For price paid.
Is that going to be an issue for you?
I can't speak to that right now. I mean, it depends. There's a lot of other variables, notwithstanding the town issues with the septic company. I don't know what my out-of-pocket expenses, but that's what's gonna look like. And I spoke with the town administrator. I'm not looking to acquire all this extra land that I can't do anything with, so I'm not opposed to a portion of my land being manipulated in the back that I don't need access to. So if it's a matter of receiving 100 feet off of my foundation right now into lot 11 to satisfy this new septic system, I'm not opposed to those lines being changed to accommodate in the rear.
So maybe she doesn't need the whole half acre.
Right.
No, but we need the flexibility to, I think, just to convey a portion thereof or all of it. So,
Chris has a question.
Chris,
Mr. Massey.
Chris,
Okay, yes, Chris.
When we were doing this taking, there was a couple people that came to us and said there was these issues, like their house was very close, and we actually changed their lot lines. There was at least, I know there was one for sure.
yeah, Klaus says, right?
It was Klaus's house for sure, absolutely, because then he
Yeah, and we
conveyed the
did a
rest of the
land
parcels to
swap.
us.
Right.
We did a land swap.
We did land
Yeah.
swap for him. And we would have done that with anyone in that
Yeah, yeah,
jurisdiction.
everybody-
We didn't
everybody aware
know,
of it,
and
right,
if
right.
you look at our bylaws within town, having your septic system on a different lot than your house is not a legal thing, and that's not your fault. So when they did that, I don't know how that ever happened.
No,
It
it's,
it
you
was
know,
probably
I
done
guess the,
prior.
the septic
Right.
system is under the ground, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. So looking at the whole parcel and seeing if we can't move her parcel around.
Yeah.
Especially, do you have wetlands in
Okay.
any of your property?
I think in the rear, the very rear.
So then that might be why you can't put a septic system behind your house? Or is
We-
that where your well is?
We're waiting for the license so we can figure out where we can park the land.
Okay.
It would even accommodate.
You know, that's what I would do, is maybe we can do a land swap.
Yeah.
Get pretty close to being equal and then going and changing.
We're gonna throw a $10,000 bill on these folks, roughly there.
Yeah, that's,
It bothers me.
it was never the
bothers
CPC's
me.
intent for these things to happen. If we had known where the
All
septic
right,
was,
yeah,
we
would have been
would've
taken
fixed
care
it.
of at the time. So, Mr.
Right.
Chairman, I move that we include an article in the October 2015 annual town meeting warrant to file a home rule petition with the legislature to get what we know right now to be 11 Magnolia, and we'll reference it, 11 Magnolia, out from under Article 97, conveyance, and then further get authorization for the board to convey the property to whomever.
Second.
Convey the
Okay,
property.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, and a second by
Yule.
Mr. Prisco,
That's fine.
or Mr. Yule. Mr. Yule? Well, we gotta get it right.
Mr. Yule.
Mr. Yule seconded it. Further discussion. I'll just bring up the point that this is one step in the
Yeah, I'll have
issue.
another
We still
motion.
have to figure out, oh, you got another
I'll have
motion?
it after this one,
Okay. Does it relate to how we might lay out this thing? Because right now,
Well, right.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
So as
Mr.
far as the
O'Leary?
layout, once we have this out from under Article 97, we can do what we want with it and get the
Yeah.
authorization to sell it. So we can do what we want as far as the manipulation of the land. Now, if you say we don't need 15, then we won't include 15 in it. If you think we do, then we should include 15 in this motion also, but I'm not that familiar with it.
I have no interest in lot 15.
Okay, so, but even if we were gonna manipulate the lot lines, would 15 help at all?
Without the benefit of the engineer coming out to look at the ground, I don't think so,
Okay.
at this point. I think that we had
11 is
one,
enough? That's
11 is
enough.
enough right now,
Okay.
for the proposal.
We can always amend,
Not if we're gonna
No.
identify the lot.
Right. We're gonna identify the
no,
line.
not at town meeting, before we finalize the article.
I don't know if everything's gonna, time-wise, will work, but anyway,
Right.
so my next motion, Mr. Chairman, is to authorize the administration to enter into a license agreement
Mhm.
with the Taylors, authorizing them to perform, perk tests,
Testing for a septic system.
testing for septic systems on Lot 11.
Second.
Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Yule. Further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Now, how soon do you anticipate hiring someone, once you get the license agreement, to do that?
I'd like this, remediated immediately, the best that I can. The septic company is just waiting for the license to start this.
Okay,
We've
the
been,
only, the only reason I ask is, it's depending upon those results, may determine if you need 15. And depending upon our timing for town meeting warrant article printing would be when?
It has to be signed by the board on September 8th.
Okay, so we'd have to know by September 8th what's gonna be included in the warrant, which would be specific to 11 and 15, or just 11?
okay.
So if we can get it done before then, if we can get the license agreement, and then get them, get septic.
Yeah, my understanding is the gentleman I'm working with the title, with the septic is ready to pull the trigger as soon as he gets the license. I think we all just want this resolved.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you get those results, convey it to him, and then we can determine if, at that point, whether we need any portion of 15 to reconfigure the lot line.
Okay.
That make sense?
Yep.
So we may be
Set.
back.
All right, thank you.
Okay, hopefully that takes a load off of your mind.
It does.
But
Okay.
you understand that the legislative process can,
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
aware of it.
okay,
Could take some
might be
time.
next June.
But we can she can do the work based on what we've just granted, right?
Testing,
Testing.
the testing, not the
They,
building.
they can't do any of the work until June?
License agreement, we can't authorize them to build permanent structure.
Not to my knowledge, no.
No, there's nothing we can
Probably
do.
not a permanent structure,
Not on an Article
I have to
97.
check.
and not on an Article 97 parcel.
I
No,
don't
we-
think so.
You'd want the legislative
I don't
process to be
think so.
complete.
Well,
We can let them do the testing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll have to follow up
definitely
Mr.
do.
But
Jones,
again,
Brad Jones on
yeah,
this
we
and see if he
have to
can.
State, Representative Jones and
Fast
Senator
track
Tar to
Yeah.
get
We'll
it
speak
through
to
as
him.
quickly as possible.
Okay.
We will speak to them.
Okay.
Fast track this thing.
Okay,
Ken?
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
all right, so we are way behind schedule. What are the wishes of the board? We skipped over review of town-owned land, and then we have a review of October town meeting. Do you want to put the town-owned land on our next meeting?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. October town meeting articles, this is just a pass-through review, so.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Mr. Hayden had something he wanted to recommend to us.
Yes. If-
Go ahead.
If I could. Well, I was looking, every year we get the same list, and we put things out there. At least our stuff never seems to get in that list. So there's pieces of property that we're always gonna ask for the same thing, keep them. Like there's some areas around Martin's Pond and other parcels in town that we think would be good for pumping stations, lift stations for sewer if we ever put it in.
Right.
Because you gotta have that parcel. And we designated it that, but it doesn't get back to this list. You follow what I'm saying? So we go back and we see the list again. I'm not pointing at you, this is prior.
No, I
We go
point
back to
away if
this.
it's the case.
Right, we go back to this list and it looks just like it did last year. So we have to go and research it again. You know, sometimes we have all those notes.
Who has configuration
Yeah,
control of the list?
Ms. Ahen, I think what we should do is we should review the feedback from the CPC. Yourself, myself, and
With
Ms.
Yeah.
CPC, it was also the DPW, I mean, this lift stations over the Mountain
Right.
Pond area have been on the table for years, so we have lots of small parcels. We're just holding those just in case, depending upon whatever the
Exactly,
configuration of
exactly.
the sewage treatment plant is gonna be, a sewage is going to
Well,
be.
and sewage
And
has-
but
those
then-
should be,
A few years back, though,
those should be identified on the list, even though we would review it again, right? But if they're not on the list,
no, they're
then-
on the list, but they're just,
Nobody
they're
knows.
just
They're
shown as
parcels.
available. They're
Yeah.
not shown as hold for,
Oh. there's
Exactly,
In other words,
that's
the
exactly
whole
what I'm
doesn't become
saying.
permanent.
There's also like parcels within Eisenhower Pond Park. That should be, all those things should be, you know,
and there were
parkland or
others that
Eisenhower
were.
Pond Park, because they're
again,
actually
And there
part
were,
of the
there were
park.
others that have been held from past boards' actions
Mhm.
for potential affordable housing
Yeah.
later
My
on.
discussion with Michael a week or two ago was, we gotta come up with a better way. I mean, a lot of this is just, and this is why we keep kicking it down the road,
Yeah.
too.
But to
And
Chris's
that-
point,
that's what we're
There
talking
there are
about.
items that are defined as, they're delegated to something, and although we might want to review them, right, we ought to have that information, and we should be looking at those items that,
those were the previously decided to be held for a
Yep.
specific
right,
potential municipal purpose.
Quickly,
Right.
if they're
And then
not
you go,
needed
"Oh,
anymore,
what do
we
we
take
look
them
at?"
off the list.
They're done.
And the other issue we've had, although I think it did get cleaned up a little bit, was that we go look at the list and every department in town has said they want it for something without defining what it's for. And that's crazy too, so. All right, so that'll be on our next agenda.
Mhm.
So review of annual, review of town meeting warrants. So we go back,
Chris, thank you.
we go back to our,
Thank you.
packet, and what page was that under? Gotta find it.
It's, oh, sorry, it's right here. It is, it's 41.
41, okay, I'm a little ahead of myself, yeah, that's right. We skipped over it.
Oh, no, that's the meeting schedule.
Okay.
It's next one, 42.
Yeah. Okay. Article 1, hear and act on reports of town office and committees. I don't think we need to talk about that. Prior year bills, we usually don't have that number until close to town meeting, if there is a number at all. Appropriate money to the capital improvement stabilization fund, and the goal is
I believe it's $175,000.
175 this year. And out of free cash,
Yes.
well, that's capital improvement, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Appropriate money to the stabilization fund, that's placeholder. Whether or not we put any money in there is being made on the floor of town meeting, I'm afraid. Appropriate money to other post-employment benefit funds, you put that in there thinking that,
Treating it the same as we do capital improvement and the regular stabilization. As a fund that we have.
so
on
as
the
you
warrant for
recall,
now.
we committed to go to 250 on the OPEB, and as a result of going through the budget process, we put 125, and this is in here. If there's some miracle, there's some additional money, we might get to the 250 goal quicker. Otherwise, it'll be 250 in the FY 2017 budget.
Correct.
At least that's our goal. Amend the FY 2016 operating budget. Michael, you want to talk about that?
Sure, so we continue to evaluate the budgets. We may make some revisions in the town buildings budget due to savings achieved by, through the new contract for cleaning services. There may also be alterations to the Board of Health budget to reflect savings in salary as well. But more to come on that.
And, okay, fund the FY 2016 reval.
That's
So
correct.
that's the big valuation.
Yeah, I believe it's approximately $80,000, but I'll have a number closer to the warrant article hearing.
Did we purposely leave that out at June town meeting?
I'd have to check back with the assessor with regard to the submission
I don't recall
timing.
it coming up as a subject, that's why.
Yeah, it was not during the hearing that I recall, at least not as part of the operating budget request.
She talked about it during setting the tax rate. It did come up in that discussion.
In November.
I don't recall it being part of the budget.
Yeah, I have to check back, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Fund MWRA water connection engineering study. So we did have a meeting with Dick and, this gentleman's name, Bob?
Rob.
Rob, from,
Wright Pierce.
Wright Pierce, right, this morning, trying to get a better handle on what numbers we might want to put in this article, because as you recall, you know, we've kind of set the Andover agreement. We want to keep this project on schedule, and we decided that there may be a couple things we want to move up in advance, so that we meet our target date of FY 2000, July, the end of June 2013, 2019.
Mr. Chairman?
Any questions about that,
I
Michael?
just wanted to elaborate a little bit. We have two articles that are on there that would address this, Article 8 and Article 11. Article 11 is aimed at potentially taking some costs that we were not projecting out until, for appropriation until June, associated with the MWRA connection, and moving them up to October, again, as you have stated, to try to get a bit of a jump start on planning. Maybe geotechnical work, boring, surveying that may need to be done, to allow us to get a jump start rather than not have the money available until July 1st of 2016. So we'll have a scope of work that will come back from the consulting engineer. The second, or I guess the first piece of it, which is Article 8, is actually a reappropriation of an existing authorization that was out there for the repair of the bolts at the Tower Hill tank. We had initially were looking to replace the bolts, but we've determined that we can, that they can be repaired through a sandblasting and recoating. That would essentially extend the useful life of the tower for a few years until its scheduled replacement, which I think is approximately 7 years from now. So we'd reappropriate that funding. The balance is about $75,000 for three purposes: to support the permitting for the IBTA, to support the application to the MWRA, and to support our technical discussions with the town of Reading, which will begin in earnest in September.
Yes, Michael?
As part of that process, the pumping station on Mill Road,
Mill Street, yeah.
Mill Street, and we did talk with Reading about what their willingness to do is just do a land swap with us, or just, do something, sell us the land for $1, whatever it's gonna be. Do we need to have a warrant article to make that transaction in October, to support the permitting process?
I'll talk with the Reading Town Manager to see what their comfort level would be. I suspect not, but I think it would be worthy to engage a conversation with them to see
So
their
I'll make
comfort level.
sure.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good suggestion.
Because I'm not sure during the permitting process, we're gonna show that.
And demonstrate the approval. I'll follow up on that, Selectman.
All right, so what Mike was talking about were the sources of funds are gonna be for those two articles. And then we have the appropriate funds for roof replacement repair, the little school. So, the school building authority is basically giving them an okay for funding. I think what's up in the air still is whether or not it's a repair of, it's not the whole roof,
Well, they don't know that they do the
or
study,
a
right?
replacement of the roof.
And there's a feasibility study that needs to be completed. We expect it will not be completed before the October town meeting, but the timing of the construction is such that we need to be able to demonstrate the appropriation in place sometime. I'm forecasting for later this calendar year. So to avoid the need for a special town meeting, we have this warrant article that's been submitted.
Any questions about that?
Excuse me.
Well, I'm not sure I understand why it's in there now, though.
Well, it's to avoid having a special town meeting.
Yeah, but even the timeline,
It's related to our contract with, under the grant program for accelerated
okay.
repair. MSBA requires accelerated repair to be
Yeah,
done within a
it's,
certain timeline.
Again, the
Thank you for
backwards
explaining that. Okay.
effect of,
that makes more sense now. Thank you.
okay, so, and this is something we really didn't have on our capital plan. It's gonna be outside the
Yeah.
capital plan.
It could be a big
And
number.
It's gonna be a challenge because, it's another impact on our debt service that we had planned on.
Support that.
And a lot will depend on what
Hopefully.
really needs to be done. But at town meeting, we're gonna have to ask for the worst-case scenario, right?
I believe that
Approval.
we're gonna, I don't wanna speak for the school department, my understanding is they're gonna try to get some level of preliminary indication, even if the feasibility study is not done, as to what we need so that they can present that number at town meeting.
Okay.
Will they be able, I'm sorry,
Just one,
will they be able to do that?
Again, it would be preliminary. The feasibility study will not be concluded at that point in time. But I think, if I recall from not this last financial planning team meeting, but the previous, that was the intention.
okay?
Yeah.
All right. Next is fund repairs to town buildings. Michael?
Yeah, I don't have a listing of projects at this point in time, but I will for the warrant article hearing. This is a standard $50,000 request.
Yes,
Yeah.
Michael?
And I'd asked for this last year. I just want to remind you that any of these requests coming forward for our consideration I would like presented what we approved last year and where we are, what the status is,
Mhm.
how much we spent on each one of those items. Are they done? If they're not done, when they're gonna be done, before we approve any more additional money.
I mean, I could tell you right now, just for full disclosure, there's a number of building projects approved at the June town meeting that will not be complete. And that's almost exclusively a reflection of the fact that we're in transition in the position of building superintendent. If you're asking about fiscal year 14 and prior, that's a different story. But in terms of the June town meeting projects that are building related, those will not have.
I just think overall, as a process, as money comes out of these standard funds like this, these fund requests, we should get an accounting of what we've already approved before we approve any more additional money. That's all I'm asking.
Oh, sure.
Just to make sure we all know that the money's being spent on what we agreed that it's been spent on. As you know, we've had some hiccups along, at least in my tenure on the board. I've seen us approve money a couple times for air conditioners that have never been purchased. So I just want to make sure that we're spending the money on what we approved. And I think the
understand.
only way to do it is when these fund requests come in, we also present the status of the already approved money.
Certainly. And if I recall that we followed that same approach last year and showed, I think we actually showed at the town meeting the balances we had available and what we were
You
gonna
did.
apply
I
forward.
just remind,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anything else on that? Fund, water permitting, we've already talked about. Supplemental funds for J.T. Berry property, this is a placeholder that has just kind of a safety net. We don't really think we need it, but I think it's prudent just to keep that article in there. Michael's gonna give a quick report on J.T. Berry after we get through with this. Sale of recreation land on Magnolia Road, we talked about already tonight. Amend the code, general bylaws, add new section 1.11. This is to automatically create the renumbering,
Correct.
as I recall. You know, when we change the bylaw, there's always a thing in there about renumbering. This will make it automatic. 15, help me with this one, I don't recall.
This would create an approval process through the town clerk and town moderator for the review of visual presentations to be made at town meeting, similar to the approval process that we use for handouts used at town meeting. It's intended to provide a scope, not only in terms of the information being presented, but also to protect the town equipment, which is often used for those presentations as well.
If someone comes in with a USB stick, sticks it into the town computer and infects it.
Got it.
Next one, was this in here last time?
It
you and
was,
I
yes.
talked?
I believe the word should read internment and not interment. I will tell you, the Public Works Department, I know, is looking to try to make, to try to address issues that have come up with regard to the process involving timing for notification for opening of graves for burials in the cemeteries.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I still have discussions to have with the Public Works Director with regard to this, so I'm going to reserve further comment. But I know it's a request that he has made to try to address the issue. And I know you, Mr. Chairman, you provided some feedback with regard to potentially a tiered structure or otherwise. So more to come on that.
Right, so there's a request from funeral parlor for burial, you know, the following day, you know, with very little notice. And Mike and I were talking about it, and we were saying, well, you just can't say, in a lot of cases, you can't say, well, you gotta give us 2 days' notice or something, because there's always gonna be a situation where maybe it's a religious requirement, could be some other reason that maybe we ought to, you know, if we're gonna have to spend more money and bring people in to do it, that we have a tiered structure of rates when those things come up.
No.
Something
I
like
think
that.
isn't the bylaw now 24 hours?
I believe that it is, yes.
I think that verbally they tell everybody 72 though. And I think that's where the issue is coming up.
Yeah.
The bylaw is one thing and they're telling
Well, then,
it's an
that's
issue.
wrong,
Yeah, again,
so.
It's wrong. It's an issue. And I wouldn't be in favor of increasing it. You talk to the other cemetery or other towns, it's all 24 hours. We're the only ones that are pushing for the 72-hour thing, and I think it's causing some problems for some of our residents that are trying to take care of their family members.
I think we're talking more of a pay rate, though, tiered system, depending upon, you know, if you want sand.
Well, that's what I was thinking, but if we already have a bylaw that says 24 hours.
Yeah, I'm okay with 24 hours, if that's what it is, but the tiered pay rate may be different, you know, for a Saturday or, you know, whatever.
All right, anyway, we'll be discussing the contents of that
I'll just
article.
tell her, hold off burying me till.
Next one is
Tuesday
snow
morning.
removal.
That's with
What are we
regard-
trying to do here?
That's with regard to sidewalk snow removal. It was an item that we had an article on that we had pulled off of the, not pulled, but passed over at the town meeting in June,
Right.
Mhm.
to try to address, try to make it some improvements upon the existing system for sidewalk snow removal. Most notably, to try to acquire the ability to so-called clean and lean the property, to go in and remove the snow and assess the property owner if they don't, if they haven't removed the snow in a timely fashion.
Well, it was to take the bylaw we have now and make it an executable bylaw. Right now,
Yes.
I don't think we can execute it the way it's written. I thought
Right,
we-
the ability to
Yeah, there are
the leverage
areas
is-
that we're
yeah.
expecting to be plowed,
So-
that can't be plowed, there's no
Well,
sidewalk.
There's a fine,
there's
there's a
driveway,
fine
and-
system in
Yeah.
place that we haven't been following necessarily.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna change that from a fine to, we're gonna take control of the situation and assess the property owner.
Whatever it is, you gotta be,
Form of a
you
lien.
gotta be able to execute.
But it's between the property owner and their tenant, or the property owner.
Yeah. Who's taking the responsibility to draft that? Or
The,
modify?
The article itself, myself, the Public Works Director, and the Police Chief have been working on it.
I mean, we asked other towns what they use and see if we can.
I know that at the time that the article was in draft form for the June town meeting, that there was some consultation with other communities regarding it. I will tell you that the biggest challenge that we face is that we have a separate and distinct municipal center from our commercial center. Many of the communities we talk to have a combined municipal and commercial center. And so the town is doing a lot of the snow removal because it's
Yeah.
basically connecting public buildings versus the issue is almost exclusively on Main Street here for us. So I think the solution we would look to, when we left off the review of this article, going into the June town meeting, we were starting to really hone back the focus to say, how do we fix the issue on Main Street? Because that's where the problem keeps coming up. It's not Winter Street, it's not the town center, it's not any of the streets that feed the town center, it's Main Street. Excuse me.
The next one is zoning bylaw, section 200-30 in the zoning map.
That's an update to the zoning map to reflect the zoning approvals that occurred at the June town meeting. There's a rezoning.
That's just administrative. Then we have street acceptance of Swamp Pond Road. We've got the legislative approval already. And Randon Terrace, where is that?
It's backside of the pond, connects to 125. That was the access for
Okay.
125.
But
That's
it's
where the
actually
gate is.
terrace, yeah, it's dirt.
No.
No, it's paved.
That's paved.
It's
now.
paved.
Yeah.
That's nice, yeah, so that's,
Yeah.
It's the one we had the
it's-
issues with
it's-
Mr.
I went by
Petrosino.
it today,
Yeah.
actually.
yeah. So no, it's paved, it's,
Usually don't go
Wide.
down
Yeah,
25.
Mr. Petrosino has a dirt one.
that
That's
was the
ex-
temporary, he
ac-
has the
yeah,
temporary construction access off 125, but this is the emergency access and egress in case the pond floods out.
Yeah,
Where before it used to be dirt.
right.
Has that been blocked off?
Yeah, it's gated.
It's got a gate. It's got one of the gates that the fire trucks can get through. And it's maintained by the DPW.
And that's it.
So then we're gonna add Chestnut Street easement.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Chestnut, Carpenter, Carpenter Road.
The school, the little street and everything there is all squared away, right?
We're getting closer.
We're getting close?
We are getting
Well, that's
closer.
been a
As
tough
far
one.
as what we need to do through town meeting, it's done. We're still working through council and
Mhm.
construction,
Correct.
to effectuate what needs to be done. But we're good with town meeting
So
action.
essentially, he has a driveway off of that street.
He's gonna have, on a plan, and a right of access to
Yeah.
his property, right? Physically, what's gonna be, there might be a little bit different, but we're working on that this week, still.
Okay.
Do we need
Mrs. Manapelli, you have a...
two more? I think that may be appropriate supplemental funds pertaining to the school design and construction.
Yeah, I was gonna think, maybe since our next meeting is until the 8th, we should probably talk about including, as a placeholder, supplemental appropriation for additional funds for the high school, middle school project litigation. Raise and appropriate, transfer from
Yes.
available funds, or borrow.
Right, that
Right.
that could be handled under amending FY 2016 budget.
I would say,
Make it
I'd
stand
like a separate freestanding.
I'm
Yeah.
in agreement.
Freestanding
Make it
article.
stand
freestanding.
out.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah,
No.
I just think we need.
Michael, did you hear that?
I did.
Okay.
I'm taking my notes here for the record,
Oh,
I'm not
okay,
texting.
I'm sorry.
My battery's gone dead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what happened to that?
That's what I've been doing.
Okay.
So
All right, anything else?
Did we, or do we want to add something for some sort of appropriation for intervenor status? Something in the event that we need funding
No.
related to that?
I mean, I know of no funding necessary for the process, it's just our time, because if you want to pay me to
No,
go, I mean, yeah, I'm
No,
over
no,
that.
if there's
No, I mean,
mailings, or if
if
there's,
there's briefs that have to be filed, or,
if we're gonna, do,
Well, wouldn't
do
that
a
be
plane
handled-
fly over with a nice little message thing, or?
Yeah, wouldn't that fall under legal counsel?
I think the
not
issue,
just a-
I think the issue is that we didn't really budget for any significant amount of time to be spent on this issue by town council.
We have money in our legal budget.
Right.
Right, but I mean, if there were any other, costs associated with clerk duties or something like that, where we need to contribute, maybe what we need is just supplement the town administrator's budget to, for miscellaneous.
Jeff, while you're going to these meetings, find out what other people may be doing or may have
Well,
done.
others at the Board of Selectmen from a couple of towns have, I believe, made funds available, but I don't know how. I don't know if they did it through
Oh,
legal counsel.
I was thinking more along the lines if we had to have some more formal pleadings filed in connection with the birth process, which it looks like we do as an intervener that, but as long as
well,
we have
we have
funds
the
earmarked.
town administrator has a budget, the board of selectmen has a little budget. I mean, if it's short money,
Yeah.
we probably have it.
If we're gonna do
We
it that way,
can
probably have council
maybe talk
do it.
about that
Have
thing
town council do it.
on the 31st with them to see.
Let's see what other communities have done.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Are we ready to move on to the next item? Mr. Prisco.
Yeah, just a quick update, which I believe everybody's been receiving the emails, at least I hope you have, with, obviously the biggest news, which is, the governor signing off on the legislation, which is great. And we have approval from DCAM to go out and have our scope of work created to do a boundary survey on the property. That's the last step in the process. That has to be complete. Danielle McKnight and our town engineer, Mike Sorgan, are taking the task to pull together the statement of work. We will then, once we have that drafted, send it over to DCAM for their final approval, and then Mr. Gilberto will follow the purchasing laws and get that out to bid, and we'll acquire a surveyor to do the work. Once that's complete, then we'll go into the final stage, which is the land distribution agreement, and that will make it official. And from that point, the clock starts ticking in regards to us selling the property, and we want to get that additional 10%.
You didn't mention the governor. When he signed an emergency letter that allowed the law to go into effect immediately, so we don't have the end of the year crunch.
Right.
That was also great news.
That was great news.
What about the Realtor?
I'm gonna
Okay.
I was actually getting to
Okay.
that. So once we have the, the LEA, then the clock starts ticking. One of the things we've been working on is drafting an RFP. It's with, I think, council now.
It is with town council still, yes.
Still with town council. They're looking at the RFP, so we can have that ready to go. Once we have the LDA in hand, we'll get that posted. But in the meantime, I received a call last week from folks over at DCAM, and under the new Baker Polito administration, they're trying to make this push to make DCAM a little more user-friendly and to create more of an open environment for people around the Commonwealth and actually throughout the country or even the world to find ways to show people of the property, the state-owned properties that are available. And they're going to hold a trade show on September 24th. I'm calling it a trade show because it pretty much sounds like a trade show to me. The title is called Open for Business, and I believe it's very blurry inside your packet. Trying to get a new version pulled together. I'm actually creating it myself, and I will get that over to you that's readable. But just to give you sort of a summary about this Open for Business trade show and why DCAM contacted me was what the governor's trying to do is he'd like to put together this forum that will give the Commonwealth an opportunity to put out all the types of properties that they have that are at two different levels. The first level is anything that's available to anybody within a 90-day period or less, which means an immediate purchase, 90 days or less. And the other category is 6 months to a year. Property, Commonwealth property that's available that can be purchased between 6 months and a year. DCAM thought it would be a great opportunity for the town of North Reading to come and be part of their booth and present our J.T. Berry property. And just provide information to developers, architects, land developers, whomever it may be. This trade show is supposed to attract all those. It could be national, it could be international. Just to give us a little more exposure prior to us going through the process of bringing in a commercial real estate firm to market the property and to conduct that market study. I think we'll get a couple things from that. We'll get a good pulse for what the developers and what the architects are looking for. And it gives us some exposure to get to sort of build some hype up on the property.
It would seem to me it would be very valuable to have a brochure of some sort that defines the property, defines, our expedited permitting, and all the other things that go along that, would probably be developed as part of our commercial realtor, but we won't have one on board by then.
Yeah,
So
and I had
is there
asked-
something we can put together?
I had asked that question to DCAM, what level of detail they want us to have provided. They said, this just came out, it's just getting posted. They are going to get back to me, I assume sometime this week, with sort of the details of things that we should produce and what they could produce as well. If there's any money that's gonna cost us to actually do any printing or anything, I believe we have it in our budget. What I'd like to make the recommendation is, one, to get the board's approval that we participate in this trade show, and that we allow the Economic Development Committee to man the booth. Danielle McKnight will also participate in manning the booth, and we'll have the Economic Development team put together all the materials, run it through the town administrator, and I'll make sure we provide it to the Board of Selectmen as well before we go out and present it at the trade show. But I think it is a great opportunity for us. It's going to be some great exposure, and it's only for 2 hours on the 24th. And I'd like to take the opportunity. It's at the Transportation Building and at the Park Plaza. And if there's any cost associated with that, again, I'd like the board's approval to go ahead and do that.
Personally, I think it's a great idea.
No, it's a good opportunity.
And I don't think it's also one where we probably don't have to spend too much money either.
No, if anything, it's going
But
to be.
I think we should have some color-printed handouts of some sort.
Mrs. McKnight already has some information, and we're working on some additional, and we're gonna get some guidance from DCAM as well. And once we have all that, we should easily be able to pull something together that's very valuable and informational, that we can hand out at the event.
Our link to the website should be on there.
It's only a 2-hour event.
It's only a 2-hour event. I'm with you.
What's their outreach? How are they communicating this? I'm just curious.
I don't know. They just came up with this, just came down from the governor, his direction. There is a website for it already. It's in that brochure you can't read that's in your packet. And they're in the process. Commonwealth's using their communication efforts to get the word out. Again, they want to touch base with developers, architects, nationally, internationally, that are looking for opportunities to come to the Commonwealth and to either, build hotels or build more malls or whatever it may be, build manufacturing facilities, bring health centers, whatever it is. They have all these properties that the Commonwealth wants to make sure is exposed, that people know do exist.
Hmm.
And again, the title being open for business, and the governor wants to make sure people know the Commonwealth is open for business. If we own some land and it could be valuable for you privately, then we are willing to sit down and have a discussion. And that's what they're gonna present. Again, two different levels. Properties that are immediately available within a 90-day period, and those that are between 6 months and a year, which our property will fall into.
Mike, is the idea, obviously, to get it onto the tax rolls, just like we're doing
Oh, yeah,
J.T. Valley?
the state has thousands and thousands of acres, and
Right, they want, they
it's
want to
overwhelming.
get rid of it. Is there, as part of their plan, is that they have the same requirements or similar requirements that we have, that they have on us, they gotta build on the property within a specific time?
You're referring to the sale partnership model,
Yeah.
which is something we will present in our booth. I don't believe all these properties are gonna fall under the sale partnership model, because DCAM owns these properties today. It's DCAM that's selling these. DCAM, the sale partnership model is more of a municipality to
Oh, okay,
municipality,
gotcha,
state
okay.
to local government
This is the
relationship.
private, but you're
This
talking
is-
about the private.
This is the state with a private sale
the
directly.
private sale, okay.
So I'm not sure that, there could be some properties, but I don't believe that's the case here. And if you look at the booths that are already been labeled in the third page of the handout, you can see what departments in the state are going to be there. Because there's more than just properties that fall into DCAM. There are some others, properties that don't fall into DCAM that will be part of this trade show. I think it's a good
I
opportunity.
don't think we have anything to lose and maybe a lot to gain.
They have a real estate company that's running it. It looks like MBTA, it's on
Yes,
MBTArealty.com, so I don't know, maybe that's the MBTA. I don't know who it is, Mass Development. Must be the ones that's taking the lead on it. But nonetheless, it's all in that brochure, and I'm telling you all that I know, because it just came out last week, late last week. And we should be getting new information, updated information. And I need to just give DCAM a call tomorrow to let them know whether we're in or not, so they can, if we're not going to, they're gonna fill our spot with
We're in.
someone else.
I think we're in.
And I
What's
don't
the
think we
date?
need to.
September what,
24th.
22nd?
The 24th, it's September 24th, and it's at the State Transportation Building, second floor, Conference Center, 10 Park Plaza. 8:30 to 10:30, which I find amazing, only 2 hours. The governor will be there. He's going to be, if you could have read the agenda, there's going to be what they call a ribbon cutting, and so an opening remarks along with it. So they're open for business. They're gonna actually have a ribbon cutting and show that the Commonwealth is ready to sell some of their properties.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. If I may?
24th, right?
Yes. Mr. Yule would like to ask a question.
Yes, Mr. Yule.
So they're gonna do this for 2 hours. Then what, is that room gonna be available?
Oh, I'm sure, we'll be there for a lot longer than 2 hours, but the sign-in is from 8:30 to
Right.
9, and the ribbon cutting's at 9. From 9:15 to 10:30 is open house, and that's where people can just walk around to all the
Right.
booths. But I don't believe they'll be kicking us out and turn the lights off at
Right.
10:30.
But is there any plan to do it again? I mean, this is one day. They're gonna
Oh,
do it for
I
2
am
hours.
absolutely 100% sure they will do this again, because again, the governor's mandate is to get these properties sold, get them back on the tax rolls.
Right,
We have these wonderful pieces of property, and we need to create they need to create new growth in this
oh, yeah,
state
definitely.
as well. So, I think their charter is no different than our charter. And what we're trying to accomplish with our economic development goals is no different what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you.
Anything else, Michael?
That's it on that subject.
Appointment to the recycling committee. Mrs. Manapelli.
Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint Josephino, 11 Rock Street, as a member of the recycling.
Jovino. I thought you said Josephine, I'm sorry.
Josephino,
Okay.
Joseph Vino, 11 Rock Street, as a member of the Recycling Committee for...
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by
It's a tough
Mr.
crowd
Yule.
here.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Joe. Town Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Briefly, I would encourage the public to visit the town's new website. In addition to the department page updates that have been ongoing, there are additional meeting minutes posted, and the project updates section on the home page is being populated with information on a pretty regular basis, so hopefully it'll be a valuable tool for our residents and those interested in the business of the town. I'm pleased to inform the board that the town, through the efforts of our employees, the town's received over $11,000 in credits in fiscal year 2015 to be used to reduce our workers' compensation premium. The credits are earned basically through proactive and voluntary participation in loss prevention and risk management activities throughout the year. Basically, our employees and our department heads make employees available to go to different trainings and activities which accrue these credits, which we then are able to use to defray the cost of our insurance premiums. So it's a benefit to us. We've been an active participant for a few years, as I understand it. I just would like to take a moment to thank our department heads for making it a priority, and to thank the employees for taking the time to attend, and to thank the staff, both in my office and in the finance department, for managing and tracking the credits. It's something that's valuable to us. It, again, helps defray the cost of our insurance premiums. I attached to my report a copy of the signed Swan Pond Road Special Act, which removes that property, that portion of town, that portion of conservation land from conservation protection to become land that we can then file for acceptance at town meeting. I'd like to recognize the public safety departments for their response to a serious motor vehicle accident on Main Street that occurred on August 12th. I've certainly been informed, and I know it was on the front page of the paper, that our police and firefighters rose to the occasion. It's a very difficult situation, obviously, but they were able to handle it. So I'd like to recognize them for their efforts. The final thing is actually an item that's in the board's correspondence for tonight's meeting. I did receive in the mail today a notice from Lockheed Martin Corporation that they will be looking to do supplemental Phase 2 comprehensive site assessment at the GE, former GE facility at 50 Fordham Road in Wilmington, Massachusetts. Wilmington. Obviously, it's a situation where there's been an impact on the town's water supply. I note this because there is actually going to be a public comment period, a public meeting that will take place here at the Town Hall on September 3rd between 5 and 7 p.m. Public is welcome to attend the open house poster session and ask questions related to the proposed supplemental investigation activities planned for the site, and I'm reading from the notice if you can't tell. The public comment period expires on September 23rd. So I just note this. We'll put it up on the town website as well to make people aware of it, those who may be interested. The town will be represented by the water department at this particular hearing. And I believe that that captures all of the comments that I wanted to make under the town administrator's report for this evening.
They're looking to develop that property? Is that what they're doing? Lockheed?
Oh, is this regarding the contaminated well?
It
in
is.
the water?
It
Yeah.
is, yes.
So
That's
what
my
they're doing
understanding,
now
yes.
is to test, to see if they get off the, whatever they're doing? or-
I can't profess to have all of the information as the letter just came in, but we'll try to get more information from Lockheed Martin. I really wanted to note it for the public's information because the hearing is, I believe, before our next meeting.
Yes, September 3rd.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, old and new business, keep in mind, we're gonna go into executive sessions after old and new business. Mr. O'Leary?
Just a couple of things, as you can, if you've driven by Route 62, you can see the demolition of the old high school, current middle school is taking
Yes, we
place.
can see a little bit of it.
A
Notice
little
it
bit of
the other day.
progress there as far as that's going on.
Is this taking it apart one brick at a time?
Apparently, yeah. First, they
No
started
wonder why
throwing
it's gonna
stuff
take
out the
3
windows.
months.
At first, they were just throwing it out the windows, and now they're taking it apart brick by brick. But it is underway and will be for quite a while. The neighbors have been notified and adequately notified that it's transpiring, what the timeframes are going to be. certificate of occupancy is hopefully going to be given this week for the middle school. So just a few minor things that are being worked out, and we anticipate that happening. They're already moving furniture in.
When
Lot
is
of
the-
activity.
When is the open house, Steve?
September 30th, I believe, right?
30th?
September 30th, which is Wednesday night.
That's correct. Yeah, it's after school starts.
Yeah, at the school
Well,
starts.
I knew that.
Yeah, September 30th. Let's see what else. The only other thing, Mr. Chairman, that I want to bring up is the untimely passing of Mr. Fred Chalmers. Fred, some of you may recall, was the person who spearheaded Bring Back the 4th of July in North Reading. But
Wasn't here too long ago.
it wasn't that long ago. What's that?
He was standing there
Yeah.
3-4 months ago.
But Fred had some health issues that finally caught up with him, and he succumbed at the young age of 58. Freddie was also very well known in the community as far as youth activities and youth sports. I mean, he just immersed himself into it for close to 15 years. There'd be youth football, lacrosse, baseball. I mean, he was on the boards of all of them, youth soccer. I probably coached them. He has 2 boys that are exactly the same age as my 2 boys. Raised them in the neighborhood that raised my boys. So we had a lot of coaching activities together for the first, maybe 7 years. And then the boys' interests changed. But Freddie has been a great contributing member to the community, affected so many young people's lives, and it's unfortunate, his untimely passing. So just publicly like to acknowledge his service to the community, and sympathy to Kathy, Nick, and Chris. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Steve. Jeff?
I'm going to echo what you said about Fred Chalmers. I didn't know him well. I met him only a few times, but I did know him because so many people spoke well of him, and he's done many things for the town and for the kids and so on. So I wanted to have him recognized and to express my sympathies. Apparently, he was a very, very good man and a very good community man. So, and that's all I have tonight.
He was a presence in the room.
Yeah.
When Freddie was
No.
around.
Anything else, Jeff?
That's it, thank you.
I want to inform the board that Sandy Carricker, who you know has run the food pantry for many years, has stepped down, officially has resigned, and just to sort of start working on her retirement and enjoying
Well, she's
more time
moving,
with him.
she's moving out of town, I heard, or
Correct.
something. Right?
Well, she was living in Andover. She had already moved out. She moved out of town a number of
This
years
is-
ago, but
Yeah.
stayed,
Yeah.
She stayed committed.
contributed to.
I would like the board to, if I could get her to come back at least one time and present her, I think we've done it in the past, we prevented some kind of a certificate or something of appreciation.
I think she deserves more than a piece of paper.
Yeah, well, I wish we could do more, but I think we should at least have her come in, or we maybe hold the time and have her come to our October town meeting and take a minute, or leave of the meeting to recognize her. Whatever the board suggests we should do, but
That's a good
I
idea.
think we should do something to recognize her all her years and what she's done to all these families. As you know, there's over 185 families that use it on a monthly basis, and her efforts will be missed
We
by the
can,
group.
we can have a plaque made.
That would be great. And if there's any.
Did you hear that, Michael?
I did, yes.
Yeah, if there's any cost or something you need any help with, let me know. I'd be more than happy to contribute. And then we can decide when, if we want to have her come in or how we want to present it at another meeting.
Uh, Not only, has she run the food pantry and done all these things for the community, but, and her leaving, is gonna be a big,
It is.
someone's gonna
Yeah.
have to fill those
Big shoes.
shoes. And I was talking to my wife about if anyone, if they had made any decisions about who and what, and, that's a
Yeah.
big concern.
Well,
I mean, she made that thing work, and,
There's a lot of good people there.
oh, I understand, I'm not taking
And-
away anything
and I
from the
think
good people that work
We'll have some
there.
people, I think it's
But,
gonna take more than one person though to step up to do what she did. I think it's gonna be multiple people
Mhm.
filling that role. That's my expectation, to see what
Mhm.
happens there.
What else?
Yeah, Central Street, can we just quickly talk about Central Street, because even tonight I received a text from a mom. Her son was driving down Central Street and blew out his tire on those raised sewer drains and sewer covers. And it just doesn't seem right that we leave them up like that, even though they're painted orange. It sometimes throws you off into oncoming traffic to get around them. Is there any way they could go out and purchase those rubber gaskets that go around them and that feather it off so we can at least safely drive over them or something? Or what's the plan to pave?
Yeah, so it's been a problem. We received 3 complaints alone today, I think, with regard to damaged vehicles. So it's a difficult problem, and it's getting worse. The plan had been to do the binder coat on Central Street, which was done in July, and then do the binder coat on Haverhill Street after the Labor Day holiday, and then to do the top course, the final course for both streets in late September. The Public Works Director informed me today that he's trying to shuffle things around to bring the contractor back in and do the final course on Central Street as soon as possible, with a goal of having it done before school is open. That's a goal right now. We don't have a contractor committed to do that work, but loud and clear, we've heard that from the community that it's not working, set up the way it is.
Just a stupid question. I mean, usually you raise those covers and then you pave.
Mhm.
So why do we raise them so early? I'm naive, but it just doesn't seem to make any sense to me when we put the,
Right, 'cause after it was paved, I drove down the street, there was no raised. Are these
Right.
raised things painted orange at least?
They
They are, because I haven't been up there since.
Some of them are very high. Some of them are as high as like that.
Yeah, I'd have to check with the DPW as to the timing, the reason
Kate,
for
you
the
drive
timing.
down that road.
I
so-
drive down it every day, and despite the fact that there are several orange manhole covers raised and warning signs, people still barrel up and down the road because it's freshly corrected. But I agree, it needs to be fixed. I
The
was just
conditions are still
assuming you
better than
have to
they
do
were.
these in phase.
Oh, no doubt. I just think that, you know, typically you raise them and then you pave a few days
Before we
after.
had potholes.
Sometimes
Before we had
people,
potholes, now we've got raised obstructions.
Right.
sometimes they
You have
just
to
put some hot
drive
top,
them.
you know, rather than put the rubber things around.
Well, these new things are pretty reasonable. I think they're actually the covers they use on some of the big barrels,
Mhm.
the little rubber gasket at the bottom of those orange barrels. They've been using those to cover the grates. I've seen them in other towns, and it just seems like a very inexpensive solution. And, you know, if we can fit it in under our Chapter 90 funding, we should do something to rectify the issue
Yeah.
rather than wait till late September.
Mhm. No, I would agree that late September is not going to work in terms of the timing. And again, the desire and the intention is to get the contractor back in to do the final course here before school opens. That's the intention. We've not committed to that at this point in time. There may be a very short turnaround time where we need to notify the community if it does materialize. But I will pursue with the DPW director the issue of a temporary solution.
Is that bus?
It is.
If I may, are we down to the last coat, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And they're still that high?
Well, that's what they do. They have to
No,
raise
no.
them to do the last coat.
They put the base coat in,
Yeah.
then they raise the things
For
to
the
put the
final
final
coat.
coat on.
They're not down to the, they're going to apply the final coat.
Fine, that's what,
And
that's
what
what.
the town administrator is saying is probably late September is what the current schedule is.
That's
So
what the
they
schedule was,
raised
yes.
the cover, the sewer manhole?
Sewer coverage.
Mhm.
Man-
Higher?
They have to. They gotta add another 3 inches of
Yeah.
final coat, or 2 to 3 inches, whatever it is. They do it all the time.
Yeah.
Neon orange or.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
anytime you go through road construction, you'll find
Yeah,
that.
no, I'm
The issue is they've done it early compared to when,
Yeah.
right.
Usually you raise them and then pave right away. These,
Yeah.
we seem to have raised them and now.
I mean, I've confidently driven over those, not on Central Street, I'm talking about in my lifetime. And I've never even given, well, I've always been afraid that they would rip out my muffler system, but.
Yeah,
it's
you
never
drive down the
happened.
road dodging them, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you can't
that's-
go down with your Porsche in some of those.
It is still
Some of them are
only
up there.
35
Well,
miles an
well,
hour on that road.
Right.
And I'm glad I did my tour before they raised
So
them.
you're saying that I tried to-
All right, anything else on that? Michael, you all set?
I am, thank you.
Okay. Just a comment, speed sign on Orchard Drive. I think those are good ideas in a few places.
Yeah, they're working. I think
You
they're
know, I
working.
find myself even sometimes, you know, you drive by and the sign pops up, oh, doing 5 miles over the speed limit or something, you know?
I think we
So,
put 2 of those
I
in the
think
budget
it's
this year.
effective. I take it they're portable enough, they can move them to other locations?
That's correct.
It didn't look like it was set up permanently.
You're right.
Police did a good job on the bow and arrow incident too. I mean, that hit the news. It seems like they may have avoided someone from really getting hurt. Our next meeting, we're back to business dress. Everyone's smiling.
It's just so comfortable.
I know. But we usually, right after Labor Day, we change our
Can we have one
clothing,
day?
just as a
One
reminder.
meeting of grace?
What?
Can we have one meeting of grace?
Yes,
A grace
of course. Of course. If it's hot, use your own judgment,
It's
right?
hot. I think that's a good.
Yeah. Although we will have a meeting before school starts, there are some communities that will have school
Oh, yeah.
starting before. I just remind drivers that we're getting to the point now where we will have school children and school buses around, if not necessarily in our neighborhood until after our next meeting, but I was surprised to find out Lawrence started
Started today.
already, in Chelsea already. That
Latest
was
in the
really
States.
early. So I just bring that to everybody's attention. I will entertain a motion to adjourn our regular meeting and proceed back into executive session for the
So moved.
purposes of finishing our discussions on, I think what's left is collective bargaining, correct? I have that right?
So
That's
moved.
correct.
And we will adjourn without returning to a regular session. at
I'll
that
say it
point.
again, so moved.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Yule. All in favor?
Second,
Need a
hold
roll,
on, second.
need a roll call, Mr. Chairman, remind me,
Harris.
roll call.
Roll call.
You need a roll call
Roll
vote for
call
executive
vote to
session.
go into executive session.
Good night, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Mr. O'Leary,
Aye.
Mr. Yule, Mrs. Manapelli,
Aye.
Mr. Prisco, and chair
Aye.
votes aye.
We'll take a minute to let him.
Yeah, sure.